Mm, 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 mm. Listen, hey, wait. This thing's not straight. Hey guys, welcome to Little Black Book 91. We are giving you guys a video. Well, we're specifically talking about something that we was meant to speak about last week or last 2 weeks even. The conversation around black marriages are low because black men don't want to marry. Well, it's an open panel. It means that you guys can have your say on what you believe is the issues around black marriage, why people are not getting married. Okay, there's a real big conversation around this at the moment. That black men are not marrying black women, and specifically when I talk about that, I actually mean more in terms of the real conversation being had in African American a circle rather than it being black in terms of the global aspect. But I think there's some real conversation that need to be had. And some real points I'm sure will be made by both men and women when they come up and have a conversation around this topic. But I think there is aspects of this convo where we do say, hey, look, we understand that the numbers have dropped, right? So in terms of black marriage, yes, I think it's even halved. Um, it's been cut in half at the moment. And the numbers for black men who are marrying black women is now a bit, I think, around about 32%. Whereas originally, I think it was at around about 60% a couple of years ago beforehand, right? About, was it 19, something like that? Something, I'm trying to remember the actual date. Let me see if I've got it in my notes. Okay, so round about, so I think the last one I checked was 90. So in 1960s, around about that time, you had about 61% of black people married. So it's gone to 32%, I think, around about 2008 or 2010, whenever the last census was around that time. So it's dropped by half, right? So that's a big thing. Okay, that's a really, really big thing. Okay, that's a really big thing. Now, the bigger issue that we have around the situation with marriage is that actually the numbers are dropping all around. So it's not just black people losing percentages in terms of being married. Actually, we have also um, white people and their marriage is also reducing. Now, their rate has not dropped as drastically as black folk. I think it went from around about 75% to around about 55%. So it's about a 20% drop, in about 50 years, right? It's about a 40%. So almost like um, a 20% drop, which is, I see you, C Taylor. I'll bring you on in a second. Which is it's still quite a big drop. It's not as much as us, because us for us is it's half. Um, you know, so but it tells us that marriage is on the decline, and that's not just in America, that's in UK too. When I looked at the stats, the UK stats for marriage has drastically declined, and I mean drastically. So it's across the board. Everybody, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Afro-Caribbean for us, the different different mixtures of people coming together, whatever. Everybody's rates has actually dropped. So there's nobody that's gone, their rate is going up. That is a sign of the times that we're in. Now there's a bigger tail off when it comes to black folk, right? There's a bigger tail off that happens with that, right? Uh so that is another conversation in itself, as well. So that can also be a conversation in itself. But the reality of the situation is we have a pandemic when it comes to marriage. It's dropping, it's been dropping, and I believe it will continue to drop, right? As people have more liberal ideas about life, and as people start attaching feminism to marriage and saying, marriage is more of a slavery than it is actually love. As you start having more men being disillusioned with marriage, thinking that oh no, their money's going to get taken, whatever, and being wounded. So long as it's going to be more and more liberal thoughts, we're still going to have a decline when it comes to marriage, right? It's just the fact that our tail off is much more larger. But there's a conversation to be had. Why is us as black folk, our marriage rates dropping so hard? Why is it that we had a hard, 50% drop? Why did we have a 50% drop whereas the whites had a 20% drop. Why is that we had such a huge fall off? That's the conversation today. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your opinions. We want to hear what you guys got to say. We want to hear what you will bring to the table. Now, if you're going to come up on here, please, this is not a bashing session against men nor women. Now, if you're a man or a woman and you come up here and you want to bash, I will remove you. I have no qualms. This is not a red pill site. It's not a manosphere site. It's not a pink pill site. It is not it's a here for truth. So if you want to have a conversation, great. Have a conversation in the chat. Keep it cute, keep it classy, and keep it educated, right? So we want to ask those questions, you know? So let's have those real good conversations today, okay? All right. Now, I've got someone behind. I'm going to put my earpiece in, and we're going to start that conversation going as well. So if you want to join, the link is in the chat. I'm going to post it up for now. And then we'll get this show really popping as well. Do me a massive favor if you haven't done so. There's 100 people plus in the room that are going to continue to grow. I want you to do a massive favor. Like this live for me. Like this live for me. Okay. Like, and then share it with somebody who needs it. Subscribe to the channel as well. All right. So we want to continue this great work that we're doing, but want everyone to be able to access it. And when you like it, the algorithm gets a nice little push and lets everybody know that this content is good content. Okay. So if you haven't done so already, you've got 130 plus people. Press the like button right now, please. All right. My fellow members that are in the room, those of you who are members in the room, shout out to you, Belinda. Another round, shout out to you, who's also a member. El Cid, I see you as well, who's a member as well. Shout out to you. We actually had a live the other day. Y'all missed it, man. We had a live the other day. And you actually can see a little bit of this live. Before I go into a conversation, we become a little. It's a bit wild because it's a back end conversation. I won't play all of it, but it was a little bit wild. Here's a little bit of what we played last time.
How tight? How tight in this situation? How tight is me and Gojo? Because if we're really tight, he would have already known, or should have already known. So that lets me know we're cool, we're friends, but we don't know each other businesses like that. So it's always going to cause an awkward situation. So like I said, I've been on both sides of this where I've had to tell my homeboy, he just met this chick. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm like, ooh, I need to go ahead and let you know. It was like a couple of years ago, but you know, that's just what it is. Just let you know. And there's been other situations where he obviously was keeping her under wraps, didn't tell us he was dating this new chick. So he like 6 months in, and he started bringing this girl around, and we're like, "Who's this? Who's this new chick?" And I'm like, "Ooh, I know he in love with her." I'm like, "Oh, ooh, I know he in love with her." It's like,
hey, lady, I've never met you.
And it could be weird because she might be a good.
Listen, it was a crazy live last night. Good fun, real topics, real conversation. It flowed. And listen, if you haven't joined the membership, make sure you join the membership. It was a very funny conversation. And literally, yes, don't worry, Elsid, I won't play the rest of the other clips. Those parts, I chose a very purposeful clip. Don't worry, Elsid. I made sure not to choose some of the crazier clips that we had. So don't worry about that. You're good. But no, real spit. Like, if you haven't joined the membership, do a massive favor, join the membership. It's $1 or £1 for whoever it is. You know, click on the $sign on the chat right now, or go onto the homepage and join the membership, because the conversations out here were hilarious, but we're gonna have them behind the scenes, so they won't be released. Okay, so I might release snippets just so that people can also see what we do, but they won't be released unless you're on Patreon, and I'll put it on the Patreon for you guys as well. All right, so listen. It's crazy out here. Okay, it is crazy out here. Okay. Next one we have, don't worry, we're going to be on Zoom. And that will include also Patreon members as well. So Patreon people, if you're there, get ready for that one, because we're going to be on Zoom, and that will definitely be more of a spicy conversation, because that won't be recorded. Okay. Listen, let's get into this conversation now. Let's have a real conversation as well. Let's have a real conversation about this topic that we're talking at hand, which is we are discussing black marriages. Why are they so low? Why don't men want to marry? What is the reason you believe that people are not marrying? What are the factors you believe that are playing into this as to why we're not marrying? Again, please, if you're going to come up here, keep it cute, keep it classy. I don't want to hear conversation of you just wanting to bash men or bash women. We want actual real dialogue and conversation. Okay. All right. So, let's get it popping. Okay. So C Taylor, I see behind. I'm going to bring you up now so we can have a little bit of a conversation as well. Okay. Let's go. C Taylor, talk to me.
Hi, Kojo. Can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Oh, hi. I didn't think I was going to be the first person. Okay. So what's the question? Why men are not marrying?
The question is more of case black marriages are low. Why are the marriage rates so low? But if you want to take it from a black man perspective, that can also work too if you prefer to say that way as well. But in general, the overall question is why are the marriage rates so low? But I kind of specified a little bit and said if you want to go there, you can. Is it because black men don't want to marry? So you can answer that question if you want.
Well, I don't know. I think that marriages are people are. Oh,
Hello.
I'm so sorry. You're breaking up a little bit. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go for it.
Sorry, what was the last part? You broke up a little bit. The main question.
Oh, okay, sorry. So main question, black marriages are low. What is the reason why our black marriages are so low? What is the reason why? Why do you believe from your perspective?
Black marriages are so, I think because it's like in the media as well. Like we hear it in the rap songs. We see it in the movies. I feel like people are putting it out there more that like it's okay to kind of just break up. Marriage is supposed to be something that's very special. It's between two people and God. And I don't think people are taking it that way anymore. I feel like it's like more of the new generation where it's just like whatever, we can get married, and if it doesn't work, we could just break up. They're not making that real commitment like it was back in the day. To me, I see marriage very special, and I wouldn't get married to somebody that I didn't see like forever. But I feel like just nowadays people are not looking at it in that way. Also, something that I was actually watching a video today, and this girl was saying that dating is for data. It's, obviously like have fun and try to get to know somebody, but try to really figure out that person. Like dating is for data, so try to see where you guys are compatible, where you're not compatible, stuff like that. Like try to see like I don't know if I'm explaining it properly, sorry. But try to see where you and that person could be basically compatible in all areas of life. Because dating is for data. And then obviously, like if you feel like you and that person are compatible on all type of levels, then you want to get married because marriage is a commitment and you want to be with somebody, for the rest of your life. So yeah, I just think that people are not doing it correctly from the beginning. We're dating to just have fun, hookup culture, and we're not really taking in that dating is for data. That makes sense.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Let me ask you a question. You don't have to say your actual age, but are you between? Just so we can get a clear idea. 16 to 21, 22 to 25, 25 to
I know I
30.
sound
Which
young.
age range?
I'm 24. I just turned 24.
Beautiful. So from your
Yeah.
perspective, 24.
Yeah.
From your perspective, you said you take marriage seriously. You see marriage as a very serious thing.
I do.
So I'm assuming that you want to get married in the future.
Yes, I do. I do want to find someone and settle down and have that commitment. I do. And I take it very seriously as well. I think when I was younger, I didn't really see it that way because I didn't really see like a lot of great marriages growing up. But as I got older, I realized what I wanted, and I just saw from things that I didn't want. I kind of took from that, like, hey, I don't want this. I want this for myself. So I kind of saw the bad examples in my life and decided that that's not what I wanted. So I didn't have good examples, but I had bad examples, and I was able to learn from that. That makes sense.
Okay, that's cool. So do you feel that there's any blame on men or women on their side as to why we have such low rates at the moment when it comes to marriage?
I think it's both sides, to be honest. I think the girls, like I said, they should be, doing their research. They should be dating as data. And I also think men as well, like, don't waste a woman's time, like, know what you want. And also be upfront. I think both parties need to be upfront with what you want, because if a woman is dating to be like serious and have commitment, the men should be straight up and say, hey, I'm just looking for a hookup, or I'm just looking to have fun. Like, don't waste a woman's time, as well as the woman, right? Because it could go either ways. If you just want hookup or whatever, just fun, like, tell the men. I feel like if we were just more honest with each other, it would just be better. Yeah. I also think too that a lot of it has to do with like traumas and like I said, like seeing things growing up as well. I feel like people need to like do more therapy, self-reflection, and really get to the root of the problem of like why you're like that way, or like why you would want to treat someone that way, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely, makes absolute sense. So I guess obviously because I haven't got anyone behind the scenes yet, so I'm sure they'll join in. You're the brave one, so you jumped in first, and I appreciate that. So from your perspective, then, just to kind of maybe give us a bit of an understanding, how are you viewing the dating world at the moment? I know you kind of mentioned about the fact that if you're a woman and you're serious about getting married, and a man is saying he wants something different, he should tell her. But from your perspective, then, how are you seeing the dating world at the moment?
It's kind of gross out there, to be honest. I've met a lot of men that I have met a lot of liars as well, like people pretending that they want commitment, or that they're looking for that, and then getting to date them, you're seeing like otherwise. You're seeing like their everyday habits, how they talk to you. I had a lot of experiences with men that would like kind of hide who they really are. So I'll be upfront, tell them what I want, and they'll be like, oh, like basically go along with it. Like, yeah, I'm looking for the same thing. And then like in the middle of us talking or dating or whatever, it's like the mask will literally fall off, like, and like their true self will be revealed.
Makes absolute sense. 100%. I hear what you're saying. Okay, no, I hear you. Stay on. You can stay on. And
Okay.
I'll just bring on someone else, but you can stay on. No problem at all. Melanie,
Hi,
how you
how are
doing?
you?
I'm good, thank you. You're right.
Hi. So, my perspective is two things. So, I think there's a
Mm-hmm.
worldly view and then there's a biblical one.
Okay, go for it.
So, people are going to hate me a little bit, but I'm going to tell you. I think number one, the demographic of women have changed.
Mm.
Women's standard financially has changed, so they're not bound to stay in marriages anymore financially.
Oh.
They now make the same or more than men. So they can kind of take off their churchly robe and do as they please. Again, I'm just telling you what I see when it comes to the world. They can do what they want and they can dress as they want. They don't have to be modest anymore. Again, people are going to hate me, but I'm going to tell you what it is. They can do exactly what they want. Then, you know what that does? Expose men to a plethora of women. They can have the picking, because women have now set a standard that they are superior when it comes to the belief of how they feel about their body, their finances, who they decide to date, marry. So the sacredcy of marriage has diminished in that way.
Mm.
When it comes to submission, somebody submitting upon someone else, there's a different standard when it comes to that. And obviously, the biblical way is, what are the way for the enemy to destroy things when he destroys a covenant between husband and wife? Um, yeah, so that's the breakdown when it comes to covenant breaking of marriages, making you believe that you can do better without being bound under the covenant of marriage. And that's my viewpoint. I'm standing by it.
Listen, hey, spicy. I ain't gonna play with it. Do you know what's really interesting? I was thinking about this on the bus just the other day when I was coming back from London, and I was thinking about this, and I said, and it's only a part of the cog. It's not the cog. It's a part of the cog of the it's one of the cogs of the wheel. Sorry, that are making things turn. And I'm gonna say it's the revolution of sexual liberation for women ruined everything.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why. Because the reality of the situation is, I would have to marry you to have access to you. That was the overall societal context of things, right? You had to marry the person to get with the person. Of course, yes, there are instances where that wasn't happening. We understand, and it's not all the way through. But once sexual liberation came for women, which I understand, right? I'm not necessarily against it all the way. I understand in terms of if you're of a worldly mindset, I actually do get it, right? Why not allow women to also have the same rights that men do? The only thing is that once you get sexual liberation, the problem is now the plethora of men who are going to get married, who would have used marriage as an excuse as to how they want to get sex, now no longer have to marry to get sex. They can now get it from just sleeping with women.
I agree.
And now it prolongs the reason for me to get married, because one of the reasons, even in the church, when we talk about this, the reason why people get married so early is because we're burning. In fact, the Bible tells us you burn and get married. Now, of course, that's within reason. Don't just go and marry anybody because you burn. Please don't go do that. You're going to ruin yourself. But, you know, it is the incentive gets lost, because if I can sleep with 5 or 6 baddies, let me just be honest with you, and let me tell you something, black women are so beautiful. I'm just going to be real with y'all. If I can sleep with 5 or 6 women that are beautiful, that are attractive, that I find attractive and sexually in nature, why marry that one and lock off myself? And by the way, and here's my final point on this before I let you guys interject again. The problem we have is that we used to have kings that will be able to have access to women on a multitude. Now we've got paupers that have access to women on a multitude. That's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that you now have paupers doing what kings do. Kings used to be able to have access to a multitude of women. The men that were underneath the kings, they would have one woman, because they didn't have the platform or the status and the kingship to be able to do so. Now every man becomes a king, and having a plethora of harem and and having a plethora of concubines. He couldn't do that before because he didn't have the financial wealth or the money or the status to be able to do this. Now the average man is a king when it comes to women. You know, so I think that's where sexual liberation has taken us to. Unfortunately, it's taken us to that particular place. If we're talking about just a dating spec. See, Taylor, jumping back from you, what's your thoughts? Hearing some of that conversation that Mel's just broken off, myself has broken off. What's your thoughts? Do you have a different point of view? Do you see things differently? How do you hear what you just? How do you say what you've heard?
No, I agree with you guys. I think that people have forgotten the power of commitment. I think it's a big thing. Obviously you can I say sex, right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You can get sex anywhere, right? Like man and woman doesn't matter, right? But I feel like commitment is such a big thing and it's hard to find. But I think that once you find it, you should hold on to it, because it's a big thing. Like I always just think about, like, let's say you're lying in the hospital bed, like how many of your hoes are gonna come in and I'm sorry, hoes.
Okay.
But how many of your hoes are gonna come and, like, I don't know, sit there with you, make sure that, everything's taken care of. And I just feel like that is like the power of commitment. You can have somebody by your side during the hard times and the good times, like, So I think that people need to remember, like, commitment is a thing. It's a big thing. It shouldn't be all about sex and stuff. And also, yeah, like I said, they do put it in the music a lot. Like we hear the city girls talking about, like, just use men for money, get your bills paid. Even though both those girls are in relationships and they're, preaching to women to just use men, it's crazy. But it's definitely heavily influenced in our music. And yeah, I think definitely did ruin a lot of things. How sexual we are, in the media and the music. And yeah, I just feel like we need to remember the power of commitment.
Love that. Melanie, what's your thoughts?
Okay. So one of the things that you mentioned when it comes to kingship and being in a financial capacity to take care of multiple women, I still come back to the fact of, now it is one thing when you have a king to take care of me and take care of all my bills and take care of everything, right? But it's a completely different thing now when a woman has given access to everything that a man can have, which is money. Money, status, that I don't typically, quote unquote, need you. I know people don't want to make this about sex, but I think the I guess the train of how this all started and the percentages that have dwindled down between Black marriages have come from the fact of, yes, sexual liberation, financial independency. Yes, now that I don't have to be stuck up under somebody, I can choose to do something else. Now, I do believe that has kind of backfired a little bit, because now that I've done all this, men haven't caught up to what my status is. No, they're still like, I want to be the king. I want to be the one that takes care of you. Now you're trying to take care of me, and we have an imbalance. I don't agree with that. So I'm just going to keep going out here and playing the fiddle. And because I have access to people who want to do the same, when you want a commitment from me, I don't have to give you that. I can just jump to somebody else who doesn't want a commitment, which causes a longer term for singleness, a longer term to still be out here, which is how you have 50-year-old, 60-year-old men talking about they single and want to settle down, and they want kids. Well, they want kids from 25 and 30-year-olds. Like, this is what we're seeing on TV. You'd be like, how in the world this old man trying to go after this younger woman? Yes, this is what they have access to. This is what people want. They want a quote unquote sugar daddy. I'm just telling you, I don't care what y'all say. That man, P Diddy, well, I'm calling him out. Doesn't matter. That man is weird. You out here with 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 26. Y'all don't find that weird? No, it gets praised because of the amount of money that it has. But that's weird to me. That's weird. And he hasn't got married. And if you look on how he's been on Wendy Williams, Oprah, I can't remember a couple of shows that he said this, but he has put out that he identifies marriage as sacred. It is a thing for him. Marriage is so sacred. And when he's ready to be married, he knows that this is going to be forever. Well, when are you going to be ready? What classifies a man to be ready now? What does that look like? And again, I heard on another show a couple of days ago where a woman was living with a man for 12 years. I mean, hey, okay, living for 12 years. And he decides that I'm not financially ready to be married to you, but we're in the house together, sharing the bills together, have kids. I'm getting every bit of good loving out of you. So I don't understand. What about that aren't you ready about? So we're talking about a whole mental capacity that has to also change in men to catch up to where we are. We're in a different century.
I think for the perspective of obviously marriage, for obviously within the Black community, I guess obviously as well, I think, you know, just looking at some of the factors of things that have happened, I think the struggle we have at the moment is I think two things, right? One is we as Black men have not made as quicker, I want to say the word quicker because I think that's important. We have made progress, but I think we haven't made as much quicker progress as Black women when it comes to economical and academical, right? And those are two things that are often needed in order to things that are needed in terms of how people judge when it comes to relationships in the long run, right? And I'll explain what that means in a second or two. What I see personally is that we have within our own community, we have Black women excelling very quickly in the areas of academia, and have risen very quickly in terms of acquiring funds, money, which is often power and freedom, and also the work that's been done in terms of healing as well, right? So in terms of mental health as well, right? I think the three things in these, I think these three areas have had such a quick progression that it's almost been startling for the Black community as males, right? So like usually the increase that has happened, because it's happened so swiftly, we've not been able to respond. And I think it's left us with a deficit, right? Because as soon as a woman becomes more mentally, as soon as a woman excels in the mental health aspect, anybody, man or woman, but I would say for women, you're gonna look at partners and go, I want somebody also who's healthy. That's natural. And then if you excel in education too, I'm a person that is of an intellect. I like intellectual stuff. If you're somebody who's gone through education, and I'll take this from my own perspective. I've talked to people who have not been educated, and sometimes it's very hard. I can't lie to you. You know what I mean? Like it'd be difficult sometimes. So then when you take that into consideration, if you're now a Black woman and you've done the work, you've gone to education, you've bettered yourself academia wise, and they're speeding through that so quickly as well, that now then becomes something that you're excelling at, and the men are kind of, we are increasing with you, but we're not increasing at the same pace, which is leaving a deficit again, you know. And then obviously again finances, because oftentimes education then leads to what I would call you guys white collar or blue collar. It leads to more access to jobs, right, and better paying jobs as well. So this is the difficult thing in that aspect too. You know, and so in that aspect, what's happening is you're having far more women excelling, and that leaves a gap because you're needing more men to fill in that gap. So for me, that's what it is. I'm seeing that happen. The speed of women growing so quickly and men not excelling at the same rate in the droves is making it very difficult for there to be a marriage situation, because men, we will not marry. Or I think in this generation now, we all struggle to want to marry when we're not financially stable, or we think like we earn less than you. We're not going to try and have a marriage situation. So if you're starting to see that excelling around you, I think it's going to be much more harder for men to want to marry. If I'm honest with you, I think the only solution I see in this particular situation is that you need more men to excel in this aspect as well. But there's other factors that play into it. But you know, I'm
Coach, I
sure
have a
there's more
question.
conversation. Yes, go for it, Cedar.
Do you think that women should try to help those men to excel on their level, or do you think that women should leave those men and just try to look for somebody on their level?
See, tell over here with these questions. Should Black women be helping those men? It depends what you mean by help, and then what level you mean by help. Are we talking about help romantically or?
Well, no, I mean, like, if a man has potential and you see, like, okay, you just have to do A, B, and C to get where I am, do you think that we should be helping those men, or should we be like, you don't have your stuff together, but I do, and I worked hard for this, so I'm not going to wait around for you. I'm not going to try to help you up. I'm just going to find someone on my level. Or should we give those men grace to say, you know what, you have the potential, I could just help you a little bit, and then we'll be good.
Here's what I would say. I'd say give them grace. I'm not saying you have to enter a relationship with them. I'd say give them grace and be their friend.
I agree.
Give them grace and be their friend, right? And you honestly will benefit from having that man as a friend. Like he may not look at it that way at the beginning, but having you as a friend, there's something that happened here. Even if he doesn't agree at the beginning, even if he finds it a bit frustrating, right? The fact that you're helping him, right, and open doors for him means that he has more access. Now he may not be the partner you ever marry, but guess what? He gonna realize how good you treat him. He may have other friends in the future who he also accesses that may come into your play later on. Yeah, sometimes they play the long game, but becoming a partner of somebody who, and the word potential is really used wrongly. Potential actually means that you actually see there is actual things going on. So potential isn't just like, oh, like he said, he has his dreams. Potential means actually there are things that are actually in place that you actually can see that the person's actually put down already, and they haven't reached their full potential. So potential is not just, you know, he or she spoke about the dreams and nothing else has gone along with it. But
yes, I agree with that. Like that's what I meant. Like you can see that he's there. He's almost there. He just needs a little bit help. Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Analysts, yes, go for it. We're talking about Black marriages and why they're so low. Talk to me.
Yeah. So you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I don't know. I was thinking about this topic too, from different perspectives. So from like the Black experience, I feel that from a macro point of view, there is issues from, you know, broken homes in the 80s, the 60s. You're talking from the drug era, that you're talking about from the welfare, you know, issues, running the men out of the home, women adopting a different mind frame of we don't need the man in the home. You know, there was a time where we needed each other for financial reasons. And then, just like you're saying, as we progressed and became more independent and financially stable and whatever, then it became the 90s. The 90s were independence. Women were independent, and we didn't need anything and need anybody. Look at, we are living single, right? I mean, that was what it was. Women living in the same house together. And it does, you know, media creates influence. So I do think a little bit like Dr. Umar. I don't really like him, but you know, he does have a point when it comes to there being an agenda to drive Black women and men away from each other. I also see it in the homosexual, not to disrespect anybody, but even in the homosexual LGBTQ community, I see that they keep pushing that. I see a lot of feminine men today, especially here in Atlanta. It's crazy. So even the women that want to marry, you're looking around like, okay, this one is feminine. This one is a scammer. The one that actually has his life together, now he thinks he's too good for the regular Black woman, and he wants to do something else or go somewhere else. And then you have a lot of people removed from God. That's really what I think. The fact that I talk to a lot of men who really are just like, oh, I don't believe in getting married the traditional way. Let me do it. We can do a ceremony. We can do all this other stuff, but not within the confines of the law. And I'm like, okay, when did we shift to that? You know what I mean? So I see it. It's like a lot of different things that's being played on. And I understand a lot of us are waking up and understanding, okay, or some people think they are woke and, you know, they think Christianity was fed by a particular group of people to Black people. So they want to get as far away from that construct as possible, including the marriage home and all that. So there's a lot playing, in my opinion. So that's all I'm gonna say for now.
Cool. I appreciate it. Thank you. Now, Huff, question we're asking now: Black marriages, why are they so low? What is the reason why we have Black marriages at such a low right now?
So, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, great. Okay. So I actually am opposite of that, right? Like, I believe that marriage is such a covenant, it's such a serious covenant. I think that it shouldn't be taken lightly. I think that people view marriage as a dream. They put it on a pedestal. And you will walk out those marriage vows, for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, right? Till death do you part. I think that people get into marriage haphazardly. And I think a lot of times there's not enough positive long-term marriages role models. So I think that even if we did see the marriage increase in our community, how many of those marriages would actually be able to sustain themselves? I'm a married woman, right? It is no joke. The spiritual warfare of being a wife is no joke. And I have a degree, baby. Okay. I didn't have my master's. And none of that prepared me for being with someone long term, going through illness and death and cancers. I mean, marriage is not to be taken lightly. And oftentimes, I don't know if people have the endurance for marriage. I'm going to be real. I don't think a lot of people have what it takes to be with somebody and walk with somebody through highs and through lows, and to see their imperfections, and to still choose love, and to choose forgiveness. And so I just think we talk about marriage like it's graduating college. Like it is such a serious covenant. And I don't think oftentimes we really take it seriously. So I didn't mean to get up here and just go the opposite way, but I really do think, I tell all my friends, you better have Jesus, and you better really love the person that you're with, because it's not easy. Even if you're married to someone who's great, even if you're married to another believer, it is still hard work. Just like being a mother, right? Like every woman shouldn't be rushing to have babies, right? Like it is such a serious commitment. And so I just want to bring that back, like have people realize that it is serious before God, and it's not to be taken lightly. So yeah.
Appreciate it, Naha. Thank you. Just kind of jumping on the back of your points here as well, just to add something. I think we are seeing our trauma beginning to really unravel and play out now. I think we're seeing again, marriage is down for everybody, but we have a considerable rate drop. In fact, the drop off has increased, because if we look at 1960s for African American, or we can title as blacks, it was underneath, and you put that against whites, it was only a 10% gap in 1960. It's now 25 almost percent gap. So that's a massive gap between then and now. And of course we know that marriage is dropping, but then that says something. And I think what we're seeing is what I would call, now you're now seeing the effects of what trauma has done to your community, right? You're now seeing the effects of what white supremacy, and I'm not just blaming white supremacy as the only reason. It's a cog as a part of the machine. You're seeing now how white supremacy and how fear induction has influenced the community. And I say that because if you're under attack, and I always say as well, like if you're under attack and your life is literally threatened every single day physically, you can only look at yourselves. You ain't got nowhere else to go. We are literally your community is literally life, right? The warfare changes, so it's no longer now going to be, we're going to now string you guys up and now and again, marriage used sometimes be, and we have to think about some of the reasons why people were getting married. Sometimes marriage wasn't just because you went to church. Sometimes people's marriages because, you know what, this is the right thing to do, number one. Sometimes people get married because actually the safety for women was to get married, because your life could be threatened without a man in there too. It's also very dangerous, especially within the black community, where again we don't discuss those things because we often focus more on the fact that we're almost being chased, killed, lynched, all that kind of stuff. But there's turmoil within our own community in that aspect. You have to think of it from that perspective as why people were getting married at that point in time. You have to think about the fact that obviously as well, your sense of ownership. What could you own as a woman without being married? That's another aspect again. That's why some people will get married. Some people are using it for leverage in terms of climbing up the social ladder, right? In that period of time. So there are a number of factors that are happening at that point in time, which don't necessarily play out the same way in 2023. They don't play out the same way, right? And the warfare that we have now is considerably different. And I think that we're starting to see is how your trauma, which was induced not just then, but all those 400 to 500 years, and we see it in UK playing in a different way, but we see it playing out. I think we're starting to see now how our trauma now is really starting to take place. And I always say this, that when you are in a place of luxury, and I believe we are in a place of luxury in some regard compared to our ancestors, once you get to that place, people don't realize that the trauma that they've been running from now catches up with them. See, when you're in survival mode, you ain't got time to think about it. Just do what needs to be done. Get married, get kids, stay together, make sure your family's protected, you earn your money. It's very straightforward. When you're in survival, there is no deviance of the plan. You got to keep it straight. and succinct. But once you're in luxury, the plan can change. Oh, I can be a YouTuber, you mean? Yeah, you mean I can do something different? I could be a comedian? You mean I could do jobs that are gonna have me in a different space, in a different arena? I could even tap into a white audience. Whoa, I mean, we never had those accesses before. And I think what we're starting to see now is that due to that expansion of what we can do, due to the fact that we're also no longer, I believe, when I say we're no longer survival, I still believe we're in survival mode, but what I mean is that some of the choices that we can make now are a luxury. This is, I think, playing out, and I think we're in that place at the moment. I don't know if that makes sense for people, but that's how I kind of see things at the moment. I don't know if anyone else wants to add. Yes, Melanie, go for it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I wanted to also touch on a part of what C. Taylor said as well as now, because I could understand their viewpoints if I was younger. You're talking about 22, 23, that when it comes down to meeting a man that has potential and then we can grow together, let me teach you how to grow and all of these things, or even to the magnitude of my value and how I perceive and view marriage itself and the ability for children. But when you're in the 35 plus crew, that thing accelerates exponentially. It does a lot. Like, oh no, ain't nobody got time to be out here talking to somebody that now you need to help them validate themselves, or now I need to put, hey, I need to encourage you to even start with something that you want to do. That value becomes different. I'm like, what happened to the season that you were in prior to me that you haven't done enough soul searching to know what have an idea of what you want to do, have an idea of what space you are going in. And even to the fact of children, like we not all of my friends are not out here trying to date for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So there is an intention when it comes to dating. There's an intention with somebody that you want to spend time with. I don't want to be your friend. I'm just trying to tell y'all. I'm not trying to be out here being people friends, because when you get that man you want, you have to cut them friends off. So there's no need for gaining of friends of men when you have intentions of marrying, and quote unquote, for what society now tells us when it comes to your biological clock is ticking when you start getting over 35 when it comes to children. So does that man want children? The questions become really intense, and that can be a lot of pressure on a man. Like, hey, this woman is now older. She's set. She knows exactly what she wants. There is no, we can figure out how to grow the wealth, but starting the wealth, she's already there. So that's why I was wanted to touch on their views when it comes to the sacredness of marriage. Yes, I believe that all those things are possible, but when you get to a certain age, that kind of goes out the door.
I'm actually in my 30s as well, and I do agree with you on that. I wasn't talking about building a man or nothing like that. So I just wanted to get that out of there. My husband came to me, and he was very well into his career, and he also knew he wanted to be married. So I do think that there is a conversation amongst men that needs to be had around the importance of families and the importance of marriage and the importance of finding the right partner. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there, Melanie. I'm not in my 20s, girl, so I get it. Yeah.
Wait, can I say something quickly? Oh, sorry.
Yes, go for it. Go for it. No, go for it. Yeah,
I was just gonna say, I was just asking like Kojo's opinion on it, but I had been through a situation where I did actually saw someone's somewhat potential, and I was trying to help them, and it didn't go well at all. It crashed and burned in my face. So I learned
that. What happened?
Basically, he cheated on me. After I was trying to help him. He didn't even have a savings account when I met him. After me, he got a savings account, and he was 27, and had nothing going for himself. And I was basically pushing him, motivating him to get things done. But he didn't appreciate it.
How long were you in a relationship for?
It wasn't that long. It was only 4 months. But it went really.
And he was cheating already?
Yeah. We were
Yeah,
long
yeah,
distance though, so I should put that in there. So
okay.
I would never do long distance again either. I learned my lesson.
This is why I said be friends with these people, you know. I'm telling you, listen, look, look, when I say friends, it doesn't mean you have to be up close and personal, up in my face. I'm saying like the amount of people, the amount of women that have given me, like I used to host weddings, I still do host weddings, TV, hosted like game show nights, stuff like that, right? The people that were giving me this opportunity were women, they weren't men, right? 90% of the people that opened doors for me to be where I am now are not men, they were women, women that were cool with me. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So I'm not saying that, okay, listen, become the best friend, because that's not what I'm asking. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying, when I say be friend, I mean, just be cool. You know what I mean? Just be cool. Like, it may not be them that's going to be your partner. So you don't have to put all your energy into them. Man, like Jay Brad, I see. You know, it might not be able to, but I think just, you never know. Because like doors have been open for me. I've always been black women. And they've continued to do so up until 2023. So I'm not saying get up close and personal. So I think what Melanie and now kind of saying is be, you know, as also very important as well. Like, you know, not becoming a friend with thinking that I'm gonna get next, because that gonna get you hurt. So I definitely hear that. Kasim, go for it. We're talking about the fact that black marriages, why are they so low? What do you believe is the reason why black marriages are so low in 2023?
Oh man, well, it's a lot of different factors in it, right? I think, um, for the most part, particularly when it comes to Black men, we're hearing and we're witnessing a lot of the negative aspects of marriage, right? You go on social media, you go in news channels, you go in different rooms, and all you hear are the negative aspects of it, particularly about what a loss it is for a man to do that financially. And these men are really taking in this information and they're really processing. They're really asking themselves, is it really worth me going into this relationship based upon or these statistics that it's not going to go well for me? And how do I protect myself from that? Um, I was married for a number of years. I have three boys. The oldest one is 27, my middle son is 25, and my youngest son is 23. My oldest son just got married like last year. And when I got married, I was 24. So he was going to get married the same time that I had married, you know, his mother. And we had a really good conversation. We talked about relationship preparedness. We talked about communication. We talked about knowing how to coexist peacefully in a relationship. We talked about negotiating skills. We talked about him having the right mental aspect and getting in a particular long-term relationship. We talked about finances. And after that conversation, he kind of figured that, you know what, he says, you know what, Dad, I'm not ready for that yet. I was like, I wouldn't do it if I were you right now, right? You just got out of college. You need to get settled in your career first, build some sort of stability and some type of foundation, right? So therefore, when you are ready to get married, you're going to eliminate one of the obstacles that a woman is looking, you know, in you for, which is provision, right? She wants to see if you have a little bit of stability, right? When it comes to finances, whether you have the mental capacity to help solve problems for her in the relationship. And she's also looking for um, other attributes. And he was dating this woman that he met in the military when he was over in Tokyo. She came to stateside like 4 times, and I had an opportunity to speak with her. Very, very nice young lady. Obviously, as a father and protective dad, I asked her, you know, certain questions about her and where she saw herself, what type of attributes that she had. We really didn't go into it like a job interview or a resume because I wasn't really concerned about her accomplishments as much versus what type of person that she was, you know, whether she was easy to get along with, whether she saw herself contributing to the man as far as what he is building, whether she would be awesome. I asked her about, you know, what type of children would you like to raise? What type of family dynamic you would like to have? You know, what is your family dynamic? Are you a good? Do you have anyone like nieces and younger individuals that you've taken care of, just to get a sense of what type of nurturer, you know, she is? And I think that really helped, you know, my oldest son make a good decision. As I said before, they got married like last year. I had an opportunity to speak with their parents before then, and we as parents kind of got together. you know, so he can see exactly where Elijah's background came from. And I got an opportunity to see where her background came from. And I'm old school. And when I was growing up, I didn't have that. So I wanted to make sure that in order to get my boys the best success in staying in this long-term committed relationship for a long time, that the father and the parents were quite involved. My other two sons, you know, they're still, you know, younger, getting their lives together, getting their careers, you know, together. So therefore they can build some type of stability within themselves so they can attract the type of woman that's going to contribute to what they have built, foster great children, be an asset to them. So I think if more men get involved, you know, in these other men and getting to understand that, hey, yes, life has its pitfalls, but if you prepare yourself enough and you get the right healing for yourself and the right communication, the right stability, it can work out for you.
So quick question, why do you think it's so low?
I think it's low because men are scared. Men are afraid of losing, you know, financially from what they hear on social media, from what they see, from other experiences that they're around, and they don't want to end up with the short end of the stick. And the only way we can combat that is if we give more positive reinforcement to actually how powerful the union between a man and a woman is in a long-term committed marriage relationship. I think if we have more communications like that as a whole, we can kind of suppress or diminish the negative sides of it. And I think we should talk more about the positive sides.
Love that. Thank you, Kasim. Rachel, join the conversation. Good to have you. What are you telling me? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, baby. Oh, let me
She's on mute.
Go for it, babe. Go for it.
You had me on mute and I was so excited. Okay.
My bad.
So, what, Kason? I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. That was excellent. So, okay. Thank you. So back in the days, there were so many pro-family movements, and our community was really working hard to keep Black families together. And I feel like there's such a big gender war between male and female, and the access to the information from male perspective and female perspective is just everywhere. And so every time someone sees something that a male might say, they might think every male is thinking that way. And so now they're thinking, oh, this is what you guys think. And then from females, they're like, oh, so that's what you're thinking. So there's this big war of male and female, and we just can't seem to get on one accord. So with that being said, though, I do have a little, because you were talking about sexual liberation, how it ended, you know, how often we get married or whatever. But back in the days, marriage benefited the male far more than it benefited the female. Like, yes, we got security and we got babies. And that was looked at as like, you're entering into adulthood, and that was, you know, your responsibility. But as we get more information and women started realizing, oh, wow, I can actually be my own person, I can make my own choices. Then there was a shift, you know, whether for the good or bad. Now I feel like marriage is more beneficial to women, you know? So if we get married, we're gaining far more because our standards are way up there, right? We're saying, we want you to take care of us. We want you to take care of our kids. We want, like, I don't care what I'm bringing to the table. You need to bring this, 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 and this. So we have risen our standards, right? Whether we have an education or not. And so now men are looking at it like, what do I gain from marrying you? But the simple fact that you might cook, you might clean, I'm not sure if you're going to do that. And the fact that if we get a divorce, most likely you're going to try to take all of my assets. So I feel like from the male perspective, there isn't much benefit to marrying you. Back in the days, women would take care of all of the stuff. And like you said, men married to have a sexual partner, and they would still step out on their wives. So it didn't even really matter. They were still stepping out. but having access to someone that would do whatever they needed done when they needed it done, that was such a benefit. Nowadays, they're not gaining anything from it really, unless you do teach, you know, children coming up the benefits of having a partner, how to be with your partner, you know, how it's a compromise, but that is rare. So not everybody is on guard. Everybody is, you know, has their wall up when they're entering a relationship, and most of the time it's situationships going on. No one is taking marriage seriously nowadays. And as someone, can you guys hear me, or am I going in and out?
Your mic is
Yeah, you're a little bit Borgy.
yeah.
Oh,
Let me make sure everyone's, hold on. Let me mute everybody and see if that will just work. Try again.
okay. Can you hear me?
I can. It's still a bit chopped. Just a little bit passion. Try again. Let's see. Let's try for a few seconds. See if it'll go. If not, I'm gonna have to kick you out and put you back in.
Okay, that's fine. Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you. It just gets a little bit chopped. Just a little bit choppy.
Okay. Well, in that case, I hope you heard the little bit that I had to say, and I will just, you know, kick myself out.
So sorry about that. So you're actually making good points, man. So I'm sorry about that because you're making good points.
No problem.
So I appreciate you, Rachel.
All right,
I'd love to
bye.
jump
I
in.
appreciate you. Yes, Jay, go for it. Giving us a
Yo,
little chest, yeah.
no,
I mean, that's
I'm
my
sorry,
job.
man.
You saw me. You saw what I did the other day. So now you bring
I
in chest.
did-
So what you trying to do?
let me give you a little bit of the Terry. Let me give you a little
Jay.
I can't do the hips, man. I can't do the hips. I'm gonna hit you with the pecs. You know what I mean? No, but man, I'm at the gym and I just happened to run across it on my YouTube, man. And this is a conversation I've been having with a lot of friends of mine, female and male. And I feel like society, it's like, remember that thing about when they were talking about the devil, the best thing that the devil did was to convince people that he didn't exist. Like, I feel like right now the devil is somewhere being like, ha ha ha, I got them all against each other. They don't want to procreate with each other. You know, they want to do the same thing. And I get it, certain people like that's a lifestyle, but I think right now there's such a devaluation on the asset of marriage. And people don't want to do it because they don't see the value in it. Our music, the society, it really teaches us that and that you're better off on your own. But and I hear a lot of my homegirls talk about, well, a man can buy me this, he needs to buy this, he needs to pay for that. And it's like my only value coming to the table isn't my finances. My value is the covering of our household, the way that I'm able to protect emotionally, physically, spiritually. The value of a woman isn't for me what she can do in the bedroom. It's what she can do those same things with me, like her covering, right? The partnership of marriage is the beautiful thing about marriage. I've been married before. When I filed for divorce, it was the hardest thing that I'd ever done in my life to that point because I truly wanted that relationship. My divorce attorney asked me while I was going through a very tumultuous divorce, he said, "Would you get married again?" I said, "Heck yeah." I just made the wrong decision with the wrong person. There's nothing wrong with marriage itself. And I feel like the more our music, the more society promotes us that we can, you know, and everything that you see and hear, it's about this battle between the sexes. Like the young lady was just saying, and I'm sorry, I didn't see it because I don't have my glasses on, I'm on my cell phone. But the more that we can be convinced that we don't need each other, then the more the community itself suffers because marriage in itself is a beautiful thing. So to summarize it, I really feel like the reason why we're not where we were is there's a ton of reasons, but most recently is really what society places on marriage. Men are just what they can bring to the table. Is he gonna help me get the bag and all this stuff? That's the yes, divorce is the number one reason for divorce, and at least in the States, is finances. But that's not all marriage is about. It's not this business merger of just my finances, your finances. It's the whole covering of what marriage is now. So I'm gonna fall back a little bit, but I really feel like that's the biggest point that I don't hear us talking about is what what's the value of your partner in a marriage.
Good point, Jay. Appreciate it.
Can I add to
J
that?
Rob,
Oh,
before you do, J Rob's gonna go before you go, and then you can go after. I promise you. J Rob, go for it.
Hey, good evening, everybody. So yeah, I agree with exactly what Brad was saying. There's not like I don't think there's an appreciation for what each gender brings to the table, especially traditionally. So I kind of come from a background. My parents were married 40 years. So my dad really instilled hard work, and my mom was a homemaker. So she definitely cooked. You know, my dad never really cooked. She cooked clean, got us off to school. So that's kind of the mindset I went dating. The problem is that, like, I think what a lot of modern women would like, they would like to work, keep their job, and then like just add that man to their life, hopefully get his resources, et cetera, et cetera. That's not all women, but I think they don't really see themselves as wives. Like, the man's marrying you to be the nurturer, the home care, the person who's domestic. They're choosing to marry you. At least what I would see is like, hey, if we get married, if we're both bringing money to the table and there's no kids, that's fine. But the moment you have kids, a lot of that weight is going to come on me. Like, you may not keep working, you may reduce your hours. I have to go. We have to get a bigger house. I'm out cutting the grass. I'm doing all this other stuff. So, and then when you have like, I can just use my example. So my son's mother, she doesn't really like to cook that much. So to me, the way I was raised, my mom taught me a lot. So I'm like, hey, we got to feed the kids right. We got to feed them this, feed that, do this. So what I found myself doing was actually teaching her actually how to be kind of what I would consider the female's role in the situation, while maintaining two full-time jobs and trying to buy property and build up a empire, so to say. So I guess my question was, I guess I'm for the women, like, do you not see yourself ever, I guess, seeing any value in cooking, trying to be a full-time mother, or at least like taking care of the kids? Because if we're just both roommates, it's fine. You can work, do your own thing, and I can work. We can take trips, vacation, all that stuff. But the moment you have like toddlers, two little children, now you have like all this extra like weight on the relationship. And I don't see a lot of women like eagerly wanting to do that, those domestic things that require like keeping the house, cooking, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just curious to see how women view it, because women say, I don't need a man. Like, I don't want to be your wife. You just want me to cook and clean for you. But a lot of it's like, hey, it's for the kids. Like, do you not want to cook and clean for your children? Like, I don't know. Maybe someone could add to that cover. That's just a question to have. I'm gonna fall back.
Before they let me just conclude what you're saying, so we just understand, because I want to make sure we're answering the question. So the question is, black marriage is why we so low. So you're saying that, from what I heard, I'm going to deduce from what I'm kind of hearing, you're saying that in the sense that women have abandoned posts from traditional aspects in terms of the traditional mindset when it comes to marriage. And so I want to ask you a question. Just
yeah, and I don't necessarily want to point the finger, because I get it. Some women are attorneys, they work, et cetera, et cetera. But when a woman says, I want 2 or 3 kids, I'm not sure she understands what that means on her. Like, what responsibilities she's going to have to do to sustain 2 or 3 kids, especially if she's working full time. I mean, like, it is the abandoned post, but I don't want to just kind of come here and point the finger and say women need to do this and that. But like, I kind of want to understand, do they like, I guess, grasp that concept that, hey, if you're going to have 2 or 3 kids, do you see yourself becoming more of a domesticated, a cooking, a cleaning, the type woman? Because that's what the kids need. That's what's required to raise children.
So are you saying that, from your perspective, that's the reason why we're having now? Because I want to make it sure, because we're answering the question. Are you saying that's the reason? That's from your perspective, one of the reasons you're seeing as the reason why black marriages are so low now, is that in essence women are not playing the traditional role? And then you're saying that, for instance, one aspect is them not understanding having kids, the impact is going to have, and therefore I know where you're going for, but I want to make it very clear so it's coming out of your mouth. If they are now saying they don't understand what it means to have 3 or 4 kids or whatever, right? But then they're working at the same time. What does that mean, though? Why would that make marriages low? Because I can try to make it real.
Yeah, I can try to make a real simple example. And I apologize for not being clear.
No. I just want to make it clear.
No, I was just saying, like, there was a woman. We were very serious. She was a teacher. I had a son. She had a daughter. She lived with her mother. Her mother did all the cooking and cleaning, and she wanted to have a bigger family, like 2 or 3 more kids. And I was okay with that. I wanted to marry her. We wanted to move forward. But I remember one time she was just like, hey, I came over and I was hungry, and she was like, yeah, I'll just ask my mom to cook you something. and like her mom like cooked or something, and then her mom cleaned up, and her mom did all this other stuff, and I'm thinking like, do you not see that as like a problem? Like you're leaning on your mom, and your mom's 70 years old. Like, and I was like, well, do you ever want to cook? She's like, no, I would just order food. Like, why would I ever cook? I was like, well, what are you gonna do? We have 4 kids. I mean, ordering food for 4 kids is very expensive. So, and then it was just like not having any desire to clean. I mean, she was a great person. Again, I wanted to marry this type of woman, but I was just thinking like, do you not see that as going to be a problem? Like, we have 2 kids right now, but what if we have 4? Like, how do you feed 4 kids Papa John's pizza? Like, I don't get it. Like that, I don't know. I mean, so that was my experience. I don't know if that's kind of clear. Like, I think women don't maybe sometimes connect the dots of what they're asking of us men and what they're asking of themselves when they say, hey, I want to have a large family, or I want to have marriage. I think they really don't even see it like they need to do these things. They need to learn how to change diapers, how to do this, build a home, cook and clean. It's not even just to serve a man. The majority of the time is to serve the children. So if you don't want to serve your own kids, I mean, or you don't even understand that you have to serve your own kids, then I don't think you're really ready to be a wife. And that's why that's probably the second reason why actually the relationship didn't work. She married someone else. I was just like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
I want to answer a question from the chat.
Wait, before we do, people haven't contributed. Shah Star hasn't gone yet, so let me get Shah Star in first. Go for it, Shah. Shah, we can't hear you. Your mic is open. We can't hear you, sis. Oh, we can hear you now. Fantastic. The Lord is good. Talk to me, sis. Answering the question, Black marriages, the percentages is low. Why do you feel that Black marriage is on such a decline at the moment?
So first of all, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be on your platform. I watch you all the time. You've helped me grow in many ways. And I also wanted to say that everyone has made some great points tonight. So many different directions you can go with this topic. First and foremost, I feel like people are just not really trying to connect with others. I don't think people really believe that they can connect with others. I don't even think people can even connect with themselves properly. I'm not too sure if they even know what they want. Dating is very, very difficult. And to even think about marriage, if you can't even get the basics down, whatever that may be to you, there's no way you can even think about marriage. And then you have to also think about how you was raised, you know, what positive or negative examples you grew up seeing in your household, which will determine if you're going to move forward in a healthy relationship and then of course a marriage. I think I'm 34 years old, so I'm still learning, still trying to figure it out myself. I am single, but I do believe that lack of communication, not being sure with yourself, not working on yourself, that's major, right? Before you can just move forward to someone else and take on their needs and their wants. So the guys that I've experienced are very toxic, right? And that's because of my attachment issues and things that I have going on. But as I got older and I'm working on myself, I realized it's because of the environment and lack of guidance that I had. So my mom and grandmother raised me. And for years, I've seen them survive and get through life without a man. And so when I, deal with men, they put me on a high pedestal and it looks like I really don't need one. It's not that I don't need one, I would love one. But because of how I live my life or the way I carry myself, I think guys are very intimidated by me. And so when you try to have these types of conversations about marriage, relationships, the men that I know, they shut down, especially Black men. They don't see themselves as the married type or worthy of being in a relationship. And it's really unfortunate because for those potentials, quote unquote, there are some great, great guys who just have lack of self-esteem. So they can't even see themselves past the basics of dating, never mind marriage. And then if you're not developing a relationship with God, that's another thing. You know, if we're going to bring the spirituality and religion into it, if you're not connecting with God, you're kind of messed up. You know what I mean? You can't get no further than where you are, because he's the one who's going to help guide you to your wife. So if you're doing this all on your own and you have demons and things going on, it's going to be very hard for you to not only connect with yourself, but with someone else. You're going to have all these expectations of other people, you know what I'm saying? But then it's one of those things where when people are expecting things from you, are you going to be able to contribute and give as well? So I just think that Black men, and I hate to say all, but from what I know, a lot of them did not grow up in a great environment. They don't know how to love themselves. They don't know how to connect with others, and they're expecting others to do all of the work. And then when you are becoming that wife or acting as wifey material, they don't even know how to handle that. So I just think it's self-esteem issues, the way you was brought up, and I also feel like it's, you know, your connection with God. If you do believe in God, those things play a big. It just pretty much it's a big impact as to how you're going to move forward to finding your wife. And I just think that if we all just sit down with ourselves and figure out what is it that we truly, truly want, then we will attract others who want the same. And then hopefully that conversation of marriage would be very easy. But until we know what's going on within ourselves, there's just no way we can move forward um, to marriage, or just building any healthy relationship.
Points, I like it. All right. Um, I know there's a question that came up for you, Kasim. I want you to answer it in a minute, literally a minute. It's one question that came up for you, and then I'm going to pass on to you, analyst IE. Okay. So the question was, it was a super chat. Shout out to the person as well because it came up. The person put this question here, Kasim. Did your son marry a Black woman or a Japanese woman? Because if she's not Black, what does marriage have to do with the state of Black marriage?
Yeah, Elijah did marry a Black woman from Houston, Texas, in the house.
Come on.
They've known each other for quite some time. I think they met at the AIT, which is the Advanced Individual Training, in San Antonio, Texas, and they just happened to have the same duty station over in Tokyo. So yeah, so Black woman from Houston.
That's my dog. I knew he'll come through. Appreciate you, Kasim. Unless I jump on for me, what do you want to say? Yep.
I almost forgot, but I wanted to touch on I don't know who it was that spoke in the car.
J-Rob.
Yeah. So first, I think that women don't mind. First of all, I think we need to change this conversation, because it's like we're asking, do women know, or should we, do we want to be domestic or whatever? I feel like you have to go by the individual. Each woman and each person is different. Some women have the ministry of cooking and some don't. Gone are the days that you should just expect a woman to do X, Y, and Z. For me as a divorced person, when I was in the courtship of my relationship going into marriage, I didn't grow up being taught how to cook or had interest. But guess what? My fiance husband was encouraging. He would say, give me props on things that I tried, things that I pulled off of YouTube, and that gave me more encouragement. When I became a mother, nobody taught me how to change diapers. Like, you learn these things in the moment. I think that person, he needs to vet the proper woman, first of all. Why you would be considering marriage with somebody who could only order you a Papa John's pizza, I think that's the question we should be asking. When it comes to domestic things, women, some, not all, but many of us naturally love to keep a clean home. Not all, but many. We like nice smelling things, beautiful things, good meals. Anybody that knows if they're having a child or a family, if the environment is positive, will show up for that. But you can't come into it with this expectation. Now, if you are coming in with the finances and saying, hey, I'm going to pay for X, Y, and Z, and you handle this, that's between the two people. That could be, there's a show called Summer House or something, Martha's Vineyard. I don't know if you guys are watching it, but the couple is in that same situation. The woman has agreed to be the homemaker. The husband is bringing in the income. Now they're on this show, quote unquote, on vacation, and he's getting upset because she's not maintaining her duties as organized or pre-planned. And she's like, hey, wait a minute, we're on vacation, like, let's chill out. If you're hungry, go get your own meal. But he's thinking, this is the role you accepted, and I'm accepting my role. So again, I'm not mad at her for making that decision. Every woman has to decide what works for them and their family and what they see for their life. But to just expect women to have certain things, I think that is antiquated. I think that especially now, if I'm bringing in 70% of the income and you are bringing 30, then maybe you need to take a cooking class. Ever thought about that? So.
Hey. All right, we're gonna go into a bit of a more speed round, so I'm gonna keep everyone to 2 minutes max. Okay, so if you get your turn, I'm gonna keep it on 2 minutes max, and once the buzzer goes, I want to hear nothing else. You got to get off. Okay, so we're gonna keep everybody short, keep it fresh, keep it funky. Stephanie, if I can get your perspective, because I know you hadn't said anything, but we're answering the question around black marriage and why black marriages percentage is so low. What's your perspective? What is the reason why you believe that black marriages are so low?
Well, I'll start from this. I was married for 15 years. I've been divorced for 8 years. So I've been on both sides. And I'll say it's interesting with all the different divorces, people say marriage is not good. Even after me being divorced, I think marriage is still wonderful. It's not marriage that's bad. It's just the wrong people getting together. You should have someone, like, yes, you should vet someone that you're emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and why wouldn't you want to be physically attracted to them? And I also think we have to look in the Black community, we have to put egos down. If you're loving her and she's loving him, you have to also go to counseling. God is number one. You also have to understand submission, and you have to understand loving, because there's submission, but it doesn't mean that he's a dictator, that he's like, you do exactly what I say, because he's supposed to put sacrifice in, and he's supposed to love her like Christ loved the church. And when you're protecting, when a man is protecting, you're also protecting her emotionally. She will submit to you if she knows that she can trust you and you're going to protect her emotionally and physically. So it's, I think, a proper understanding. It's not like hitting my chest, I'm the man. No, you have to be tender with her. When you're tender and you take your rightful leadership, your wife is going to follow you. I can trust that man with my heart. I can trust him emotionally. I can trust him because of how he's showing his love. It's an action word. But when you're coming at her, I'm just saying, when a man's coming at her in the wrong way, she's gonna be defensive. You're not gonna give the love out of her like you want. For our community, a Black woman will love you hard. We're very loyal. Sometimes we're so misunderstood, and other people are starting to see how misunderstood we are. When it comes to Black guys getting shot in the street, who's in the front lines? Black women. We are. And if sometimes when we're with different people, it's because they kind of what's the wording? They consider us. And that's when we're considered, and you don't have to be perfect, but when you are working with us, working inside along of us, you're gonna get a love like you never had before. And it's true. We're very passionate. We're very loving. We're very loyal. And I'm not just saying just to build us up, because I know there's problems within the community with Black women too. But it's just like this. We're so misunderstood that people would stop with it. It starts with leadership. Not that women don't have their parts, but we have to get the leadership with the men right. I'm not a man, but I'm telling you what we are yearning for. So many women are going outside the community. It's not because we want to be with another race of man. It's because we're being considered. Sometimes they say when you go when they go outside there, they act differently. Look at Eve. She because not because that man's white, because he considers her. We are so freaking race loyal as Black women, but it's getting to the point we're like, you know what? We would love to, but we just want that love, and we want to reciprocate it. But we just need, and we don't mind being submissive, but it can't be a dictatorship. You do what I say, and that's it. No. And then when it talks about, I'm changing up a little bit. When we talk about being domestic, I think that's something that we do as adulting. It's not a matter of a wife doing her husband. That's what we have to do as adults, period, before we even get married. So I think on both sides, we have to put the egos down. But I think because God had, like when Adam and Eve, even though Eve did what she did, who did God call first? Adam, because he had him to be the head. Even though Eve did get in trouble, he called Adam. Think about, even though we're not kids, think about our kids. We have our older kid watching a younger kid. Their kid might have run amok. Who we calling that older kid? Because I had you in charge. If they would take their rightful place, then you would see a freaking change. And I'm not trying to be, and I'm talking collectively, not individually, because I know there's some great men. And I'm just talking with passion because after one that's been divorced. I mean, that's all I have to say for now.
No, appreciate it, Stephanie. Thank you. I'm going to reset the room, and then we're going to go into our like I said, speed session where everyone's going to have 2 minutes to just kind of say what they've got to say, and then we're going to shift it. All right, cool. So really, really quickly, thank you guys for joining us. If you're here and you're new, listen, welcome to Little Black Button 91. We encourage and foster good, deep, insightful conversations. This is not a manosphere space. It's not a woman's space, not a simp space. It's just a conversational space where we all get to have different thoughts and opinions. And different thoughts. So if you're that kind of person who likes intellectual conversations and you can reason very well, this is a space for you. All right, listen. Look, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like this live. There's 370 guys and women in this room. We'd love for you to like the live, share it with somebody, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so as well. And also, if you're here as well, join the membership. Listen, guys, we had a great live the other night. It was kind of crazy. We started talking about some things, and some interesting topics as well. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you join the membership as well. It's $1 or £1 wherever you are. Join up and get ready to have some exclusive conversations behind the scenes. So not much as we're doing right now, but a little bit more different. All right. Let me get through some of these super chats as well for you guys, because you guys have been doing so, and some of the new members that have also joined today. Tiffany, shout out to you. Thank you for joining the membership. Much appreciation. Dahlia, thank you for joining as well. Desiree, thank you for joining as a new member. And Shana, thank you as well for joining as a new member. It's much appreciated as well. We've got some super chats here. I think there's 2 questions actually, so we might have to answer the panelists this question as well. So Miss R and Diva says, men are not fulfilling their traditional role of protecting and creating a safe environment for women. Men are expecting women to be the protector, which is in my experience and reason I remain single. Okay, that's a good point. And then we have Rachel, who was on the panel not so long ago as well. Shout out to her with a $50 super chat. Much appreciation. And I love to have you on here. Your points were actually really good, actually, to be honest. Communication is a key, but men and women communicate differently. So we are both on the defense. Both genders need to educate themselves so they have understanding for one another. Let's have more programs that teach communicational skills. That's a good point. I'm with you, Rachel. I'm with you. And shout out for the super chat as well. Okay, cool. Let's regain and get back into some of this conversation then. Because we've got to a point where I've asked everybody why the marriage rates are so low and et cetera, and everyone's kind of giving their perspective and giving some explanation around it. So let me throw some jabs and throw some spanners in the work. Okay, all right. So I'm going to ask the ladies first, and I've got Jay, Brad, and Kasim here as well. And if any man wants to join, please click on the link. And I see TT, you're behind as well, so I might bring you on now, as well. So, ladies, let me get from each individual perspective. We've got 2 minutes because once your time is done, I'll move it on. Right? The opposite sex, right? What is the problem with the opposite sex at this current moment in regards to relationships? What is the problem? So we've got 2 minutes. Everyone's going to have 2 minutes. What is the problem? Because I'm going to ask the men the same thing so we can get an understanding where we are starting from and what kind of problems we're facing on each side. That's the reason why we're not entering our marriages, right? So we can hopefully then collate some ideas and then we can start really tackling some of these issues, right? So, who's open their mic? Who's open their mic?
Hi.
TT. Okay, TT. Hey, TT, you're right.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm in the Bahamas, so pleasure to be here.
Shout out to you, TT.
It's interesting. If I can give you a little bit of cultural background, the Bahamas is, I would say, arguably 90% of us are Black or people of color.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps the perspective that I would speak from differs from perhaps other persons on the panel and, your audience at large, where they perhaps may be the minority. I'm not sure. So the point that I want to make is here in the Bahamas, we see ourselves everywhere that we go, in the schools, at the police station, at the banks, at the insurance companies, at the hospitals. So the point that I'm making is I don't know whether it's more so like perhaps a cultural difference, because here in the Bahamas, we do have Black men marrying every week. So maybe some of the single ladies in the panel may find themselves here in the Bahamas, right? So the point that I want to make, it's not so much about Black men who don't want to marry from my perspective. That's not the problem that we have. I think it's more so something related to this sense of what's the benefit of it. It's literally, I think it's come down to a dollars and cents decision. Cents as in CENTS as opposed to SENSE. What do I mean? People today are talking about this 50-50. I'm not looking for a roommate, or rather, I don't have a roommate. I'm married. So I left my home, after college. And again, too, it's a cultural thing. Men in the Bahamas, even though they may come back from university with a graduate degree, they're all, a lot of us are have tertiary education in the US, Canada, the UK, and elsewhere. It's nothing seen quite odd where a man would return from university and he would actually return home. He would actually live with his parents, for example, if he has a homestead, as we would call it. That's not looked down negatively. The fact that he has to go out and quote unquote pay rent. What he is expected to do, however, is to provide some type of financial support in terms of being a contributor to the home, be it the electricity or the groceries or whatever. But the expectation from Bahamian families is that he is expected to save his money and to be able to afford himself and his wife, if it's expected for him to marry, that he would have the ability to provide for his wife, when he actually leaves home. So it's like he already has a little bit of a nest egg, so to speak, of having had his education and also being at home for a while. So my point, back to the point about this whole thing about dollars and cents, we're not looking for roommates. We're looking for partners. We're looking for men to lead, to protect, to actually, I want to say, forgive me again. No, again, I don't want to say forgive me. I'm a professional woman. I heard all this thing about what, 6 figures. I've been making 6 figures since I was in my late 30s, right? And I'm in my early 50s. So my thing about this thing about being 50-50, my husband, he makes more than I do. Even though I may be in my 6 figures, he actually makes twice the amount of monies that I make. He's not expecting me at my salary to be contributing 50-50, 70-30, this ratio nonsense that I hear everybody talking about. So my thing about it is I hear so much people talking about this 50-50, and what is she doing and what is he doing? There seems to be an issue of trust. That to me is the underlying issue that is becoming the more overlying issue, I find, in the majority of relationships, and why, again, some men may find themselves not so inclined to be married, and women as well. Because again, from my perspective in the Bahamas, the majority of my friends and my colleagues and the women in my circle, they're like me. They're making over six figures. So you expect us to contribute and to do this and to do the next? No, we're not going to be contributing 50-50 and expected that, oh, you have to pay your portion of the electricity bill, the cable bill, and whatnot. No, everything is actually pooled. Everything is sorted. And the fact is, we have a certain level of trust, proven trust with our partners. So we don't have all of this finagling and counting and who's doing what. If I come home from work after a long day, yes, I am going to cook my husband a meal. And guess what? I may have a housekeeper, but I do that because I know that that is something that he appreciates me doing for him. I don't have to do it for him. Even if the housekeeper were to take out something, I may decide on the meal, what it is the meal, but I'm going to do that for him because that is something that I know that he likes for me to do. Vice versa. I can pay somebody at my office to clean my car, $20 a week or $25 a week. I can actually do that. But no, on the weekends, he's going to take the time and say, babe, in fact, I wouldn't even know he'll take the car and then he brings it back and the car is clean. The car's serviced. Those little small things, but I can afford to do it myself. It's all about meeting and satisfying that particular person's primary love language. He and I, we have different primary love languages. I understand what his own is. He understands what my own is.
Thank you. I let her go for more than 2 minutes because she was coming from a different perspective. She hasn't spoken yet, but it actually did open up a little bit of conversation, which I'll probably push a little bit later on. But thank you for that, TT, as well, because you gave a different perspective, which is probably going to be needed as well to discuss it. All right, we're going to start the 2-minute timer now because obviously she hasn't spoken yet. So now we're going, because everyone else has spoken on this panel. So I want to get the ladies first. I want you to give us in 2 minutes, what do you believe the problem is with the opposite sex? What is the problem at the moment that you guys are you ladies are facing in respect to the men? What is the biggest issue in terms of the things that are stopping us from getting married? What do you feel the problem is, right? So ladies, don't rush all at once, but give me your 2 minutes, what you feel the men are not doing at the moment that's stopping them from getting there. And the men will reply as to what they heard and what we heard from you guys. Okay, who wants to go first? Don't all be shy now because y'all was going in before.
I'll go.
Okay, go for it, Stephanie.
Okay, I guess I'll take it back. I grew up in the 80s, 90s, born in the 70s, like I am, the age that I am. And so I'll take it back to even how I grew up. I agree with some old school, some new school. Going back and being gentlemen. I think starting from there, I don't believe that chivalry is dead. When I do go out on dates, they understand that chivalry is not dead, but it doesn't mean taking anybody for granted. So start from there. Just when going out, if a young man asks me out, I'm expected for him to pay because that's a gentleman thing, not because I'm trying to take him for granted. I would go. I would not get the most expensive thing because that's rude. But it's a gentleman thing. I'm not going. And you pay for your food, I pay for mine. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, I'm old school. When it comes to bills, I agree. That's a roommate, 50-50. Who does that? That's ridiculous. This social media, this nonsense. In order for our community to grow, for communities to grow, you have to build family. You have to build legacy. Playing house. That's ridiculous to play house. You're doing a thing, you might as well go ahead and get married. And it's not a glamour thing to get married, but you have to build a foundation first. You can't rush into everything. You can't just be about sex, sex, sex. You have to start from scratch. Get to know this person. How is it when they're happy, when they're sad? Don't play those little silly games. I got to make him happy. I got to make her mad. I got to do this to see how she responds. If you're naturally getting to know someone, you're going to see it regardless. That game playing has to stop. So it's getting someone that has a similar mindset, having some boundaries, having some limitations. I'm not saying anybody's perfect, but being transparent, being vulnerable. All the game playing has to stop. That's what I see out here so far. But in order to build our community, we have to build families. We have to build marriage. Before marriage, you have to start with a foundation.
Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate it.
I'll go next.
Yeah, go for it.
I just think that men are forgetting that women are the prize. For some reason, they're starting to think that they're the prize, and it's almost like, I have so much to offer. What can a woman do for me? What can you bring for me? And it's not supposed to be that way. Like, we are the prize. And I know the Bible does have a verse, and it does say, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord.
Oh, okay. Sita was short and sweet. She said, "We are the prize." And said, "The good Lord and the good book said." So, I appreciate that. Unless I go for it.
I would just say, piggybacking off of what they're saying, just unhealed. I would say that the men in our community need a lot of therapy, need a lot of Jesus, need a lot of something. There needs to be a whole change in mindset. They need to get off YouTube, watching hate videos against women. They need to, like what the last person said, or the person before said, the game playing. I mean, I'm not one to say divest or do all that, but I will tell you my personal experience when I talk to someone of a different race. The conversations are natural and organic. When I'm talking to Black men, I get, so what are you cooking tonight? What does that have to do with you? You know, or some little kind of way to figure out what kind of person I am, or no. So we need to heal. That's what I say.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So, Kasim, it's myself, and your job to tackle some of what they said. So, some of the points that they said, and because before we can give our responses of what we feel maybe hampering the community, what are some of the things that you picked up, Kasim, and what you heard from the ladies as problems that we are at the moment as men we are inhibiting?
Oh, so what we men are inhibiting, or what the women are inhibiting, or what the women are, what I see from the women?
Before we get to reply and say what we feel women are doing wrong, what did you hear? So from the panelists that have spoke, we had panelists who gave their perspective in terms of what they feel some of the problems are. And I wanted to see what were some of the problems that you heard that you can address or speak to, or even say you agree, whichever it is, to some of the points that they made.
From the main point, I heard lack of leadership, lack of commitment, and lack of cooperation. I heard that women are expecting men to be at a certain place, mentally, to be able to problem solve, to be able to nurture in order to care, and that today's men, are lacking in those areas. And that's an individual thing, right? I think before anyone goes into a relationship, they have to, have the time, the resources, and the energy, right, to be in a relationship with a person. I think that's like the first step. And many people, they don't have those particular things in order, so they're already starting, off on the wrong foot. But it is an individual thing for them to get their mind in a certain place, their finances in a certain place, so they can be, a better option, for that person.
Appreciate it. I actually wrote down what you ladies said because I wasn't going to mess around. So that's
You cheating, man. You cheating.
I'm cheating. So I'm so sorry. But no, if I was not to go to my notes and just what I heard specifically, I think the part that spoke to me, and probably because obviously the fact that I do a bit at work already, was the healing aspect as well. That was one of the things that I heard. And then also that women are the prize. I don't know if I agree with that, but I heard it, but I don't know if I agree with that. CJ, I love you, but I don't know if I agree with that. And I guess it depends on the way that you put it, in a way that the interpreted meaning of people are the prize. But I definitely heard that, and as some of you can see, that women are meeting us at a particular level. It's not at the moment good enough, right? So we are falling short in some aspects, which is oftentimes the financial and emotional aspect. So I think for me, that's what I heard, especially the healing part. Is definitely the part that I definitely heard, and definitely was resonating with. Like, you know what, fair shout. I definitely will definitely agree with that as well. I think we do as men need more healing, especially when people tell me that emotions are not anger, and that is natural for men to do. That tells me that we need some healing and some education. So I definitely hear you ladies on that point as well. Okay, so Kasim, what do you think are the problems the ladies are facing as to why they are not getting married?
So now we're talking about the type of men, right? The caliber of men that has done the work within themselves, that have done the assessment. They've worked on themselves. They have gotten their things together. So now these particular us type of individuals are looking for certain qualities, and they're finding out that a lot of women now really don't have the right values. And I think that's where the disconnect comes from, right? You have a woman that comes in with one set of values, and then you have that man that's able to, take her under his covering and under his leadership with a different set of values. And those values, they're adversarial to one another. One of those values that I see a lot of women lacking in is the lack of willingness, right? Is she willing to be a part of what I have going on and what I'm building? Is she willing to contribute her insight, right? In order for us to move forward? Is she willing to consider herself less in the relationship, and not in a condescending way, but more in as far as in a cooperative way, right? Is she willing to really be a part of the whole system, the whole order that I have, and the whole structure that I have going on, in the household? And from most men's assessment that are looking to marry women like this, they're not really seeing that. So my suggestion would be for the woman to really work on her willingness, her openness, realizing that, her opinion and her value does matter, but there's a way of communicating that.
Thank you, Kasim. Appreciate that. I guess I'll fill in too. Appreciate Kasim as well. For me personally, I think I'm gonna be a little bit spicy here. I think that women today are great, they're amazing, but I think they can have it all, and I don't believe they can. Just like I don't believe men can have it all. I think if you are gonna be a career woman, you're gonna be a mother, you're gonna be a wife, you're gonna be all those things. There has to be some level of balance, but there has to also be some level of sacrifice at the same time. I think that's a major issue for a lot of men as to why they won't jump into a relationship. I think our brother J Rob kind of said it, maybe not as eloquently, but he said it. That there's an imbalance when it comes to that aspect. I think another thing also too is some of y'all are rude and disrespectful based on your financial standing. So not even just like in general, just based on your financial standing, y'all are rude. The way that you address men who you believe are beneath you, some of you are too rude. It's unbelievable, some of the rudeness I've heard sometimes, and even sometimes my panel. I think some women and we can say the same for men, but I'm talking about the women here. I think some women generally have an issue with men, and it's not that man's fault, but it's based on what a man has done to you. And I think their perception of men keeps them single. They actually don't like men. It just doesn't show up as them punching you or hitting you or being aggressive with it, but they actually don't like men at all. They're there for a purpose, which is to yield, help them get kids, get stability, get marriage, and nothing else. It's just like you don't actually like men. So for me personally, I think there's a few things that that come to mind when I hear some of the conversations. And if I think it's correct, I'll leave it there because I don't want to go over my 2 minutes. You know what I mean? So that's me just saying that particular aspect. So ladies, what did you hear? The ladies like we need to go round 2 because we were super easy on them. There's like we need to go again.
I want to raise my hand in the chat. May I?
Yes, you can. What did you hear from the men? What did we say?
Let's go there. I'm not going to build with you at the age of 50, 60, 65, or 70 when you're nearing retirement age. I don't know what retirement age there is in the US or the UK, but the retirement age in the Bahamas legally is 65 years of age. So I'm not going to be building with you per se at 65. I would be willing to build with you at 19, at 20, 21, 22, but at some point we're going to age out of that. I would expect for you to have already been built. I'm not building a man at 60, 65 per se. I'm here to support, but you should have already had something built at 60, 50, 65, nearing retirement. So this thing about working to build with me, my son is now 12.
TT.
I am not expecting a lady to take care of him at 50, 55, and 60.
Okay, I've muted her mic. I don't think she can hear us, but I had to mute her mic. She failed the exercise. The exercise is, what did you hear us say?
I heard building a man. That was one of the key things that I heard at the very beginning. I did hear that.
No,
and
between me and Kasim?
Repeated.
Between me and Kasim?
Yeah, Kasim, forgive me. Is that the pronunciation? I heard that. And women, and I heard about something about, I don't want to misspeak, but you said something along the lines of what that women would need to convey it in a respectful manner. And I fully appreciate that, because we all know as women, our tone can actually, cause hurt and pain. I accept that. So I would actually accept that. But I did hear you say something about working with men to build. So I just wanted to clarify.
So let me clarify that. Build is not necessarily something that you have to do with a man when it comes to his career or when it comes to finances. When you build with a man, there are certain experiences that you go through. There's certain levels of communication that you have. There's certain ways of working in the dynamic of the relationship to get it to a specific level. And you can interpret that in any way you wish, but it's not really necessarily financial.
I appreciate it. Well, I think this is also a really good example of what happens while we, as a community, why we actually need to have these moments, right? Because sometimes we are hearing something that we're actually not being said. Because I never heard Kasim say about build in the aspect of build a man up. Because we all know on this channel, we ain't for that business around here. Yeah, Kasim is well versed. He knows.
I'm there already.
We don't do those things. That is not our MO. So, but I hear what you're saying, TT. It's just that I think that's why I was a bit like confused. I was like, I let you go for a minute, and I was like, I feel like you've missed our point. That was not what we said. And now I feel bad because I know we've been speaking for a few minutes, and now the other people got to kind of remember what we said about 3 or 4 minutes ago. So, ladies, I do apologize, but yes, analyst, I go for it.
I heard you say that I think no, I heard you say that women can't have it all. And I kind of agree or think we can have it all, but we can't. Is that what you said, Kojo? Sort of. Okay. So I think, yes, I think there is a little bit of a romanticism around having, someone with whatever amount of income, attractiveness, education, whatever, just whatever the list is. But I think there are, for me, I'll speak for myself, a lot of us are saying, you know what, we can't have it all. So maybe it's better to just be single because I don't want a guy who's making a lot of money and unavailable, cheating, X, Y, and Z. Then I don't want a bum, that can't contribute. I have to build up. That ends up turning on me in the end anyway. So where do we stand? I'm in the middle. That's it.
Analyst. CT, what do you hear?
Okay. To the point of, there's actually two things I want to address actually, because you said that women aren't the prize. Excuse me. We definitely are the prize. No. Let me so basically what I was trying to say is that I'm not trying to like put down men at all, but I just mean that women, like, we are the table. I feel like we give so much to a man, we have so much to offer to a man, and I'm just saying in this generation men don't really see our value. So I feel like that's why women actually have to say, like, hey, we are the prize. We do have something. We have a lot to offer. Actually, we're the whole damn table, you know. And I just that's why I say that we are the prize, because men nowadays, especially like because I'm 24 and I'm dating, men seem to just feel like women have nothing to offer. Like, I have it all. What can you give me? So that's what I meant when I meant like women are the prize, because we're the whole damn table. Actually, we have a lot. So I just wanted to just say that. And then I think that women, it depends. I mean, it depends on what, like, every woman's different. So what do you mean by like having it all? Like, what do you mean by women can't have it all?
So what I mean by that is having it all is the fantasy, right? So you want the man that's 6 foot, 6 abs, 6 figures. You want him to be this most amazing provider whilst being emotionally present, and just basically you want Superman, right?
Okay.
You want Superman. And then at the same time, you also want to be Lois Lane with superpowers too. You want to be the mother, the wife, the cook, okay, maybe cooking the wife, 2023. But you know what I mean? Like you want to encompass all the roles too at the same time. And I feel like there has to be some give, and there's probably has to be some give and some take, right? Because in all in all, both of us have needs that we have to function with. And I think for us in 2023, I feel like the aspect that we're missing between each other oftentimes is one, our role provider, but another aspect for women. I feel like you're trying to do so many things, and I feel like that unstabilizes the family. Everything for the family, as Dominic Toretto would say. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's that balance. Your career, you want to be 100,000% in your career, at the same time be 100% into your wifehood, and not in wifehood, even as a mother and a wifehood. And it's like sometimes that balance is hard to get, right? Do you focus more on your career? Okay, you go in career. Okay, then now this might have to take a back burner. You being a wife or being a mother might have to take a little bit more of a back burner, right? So that was what I was saying about having it all, like wanting the fantasy man, and then having the fantasy role as in yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, then in that case, then yeah, I don't think that women can have it all. Like when you explain it like that, I think compromise is key. And then also, like, if you're with somebody and it's a partnership, why would you want to, I guess, have it all? Like, you're in a partnership, you can lend the load to your partner, right? We can come together as one. Why would women want to have it all anyways? We could share that load.
You know what? I want to add a comment to what you said when you
Before you go,
said as far as
hold that thought, hold it. Just let Stephanie go, and then you can add on to it. I promise you. Just I don't want her to forget, because I know we take a little bit of time for them. Go for it, Steph.
I was listening to as far as the prize. I think, and this is just my observation, that sometimes guys think, well, if she's a prize, what am I? God put man as the head, so it's obvious that you guys are important. He wants you to run things, but in a respectful manner. But part of the community's problem too is you look at the wife as a prize. When you're gonna be blessed as a man, but when you learn how to treat your wife, and of course she's gonna treat you right too, because you're being a good leader, and she's gonna follow your lead. If you learn how to treat your wife, you're gonna get an abundance of blessings. I remember I was watching something content creator. He said, when I learned how to love my wife, he says I had even a more abundance of blessings. I think egos need to be put down. But I heard you say that, and then I also heard you say somebody say something about black women having attitudes. In my opinion, even though I don't date women, but I've been around women, I've been one all my life, and I've been around different, communities. I mean, with different women of socioeconomics within our community. And I'm not saying you're saying the women on TV, but it's interesting. The black women they show on TV, I don't see women like that. I don't know women like that. I don't hang around women like that. I know it's not me individually. I know we're talking about the collective, but I think that's a small percentage of black women that have the attitude, because a lot of us are very traditional and don't have those nasty attitudes. I think it's a small percentage of black women who have those attitudes. Not that they're not out there. They are. Mm-hmm. And also, I think as black women that we work so hard as far as raising the kids. Not that fathers don't, but I'm just saying from our perspective, going to God, going to church, going to counseling, understanding mental health, getting educated. Black women are doing the doggone thing. We're lawyers, we're engineers, we're all these different things, being entrepreneurs. We're working very hard. And yes, there's some black women who do have attitudes about how much they make. And then there's some men, though, that have attitudes. Oh, you think you all this, or they'll come at a black woman and say, oh, Miss Independent Woman. I don't want any black man to come at me and say, oh, you Miss Independent. If a person's independent, you don't have to say it. It's going to be shown. If you are not married, you're going to be independent because you have to adult. Come to me as a lady, as a young lady. Be tender, be kind. And yes, she'll be respectful to you, but also he has to be respectful to her too, collectively. Because sometimes a lot of the men cat calls and stuff, and some of the stuff out here with is embarrassing out here within our community. There's women talking, but mostly it's a lot of men saying so many nasty things about black women, and we're so for black men, and it's so hurtful and disrespectful. We're getting to the point where our loyalty is starting to fade out, and it's not because of all black men, but I don't know any community that talks about their women like that, not individually men, but collectively. It's embarrassing, it's hurtful, and it's getting to the point where we're saying, you know what, screw it. But and everybody's entitled to their opinion. Not that we're perfect, because black women are not perfect, women are not perfect, but just that leadership, I think just egos need to be dropped. And why would a man want to be a prize anyways? Why would he want to be a prize? I don't understand it. I don't understand.
Appreciate it. Kasim, go for it. Thank you, Seth.
Ladies talk a lot about us men understanding their value, right? However, I believe there's a disconnect with the women. I believe that they internalize their value a certain way, but they exhibit the value in a different way. As men, we look at women and the things that they do, we take that as at face value. We don't dive any deeper into the surface and try to figure out what's behind this and what's behind that. Whatever value that you give to a man, he sees that as face value, right? Because we're more analytical and we're more intrinsic in our thinking. So I think that's where the disconnect is. Some women believe that they are have these great attributes and these great things, but men don't see that, right? So you really have to kind of search within yourself and say, hey, am I exhibiting the right behaviors, right, in order to have access or proximity or even get the man that I want? So that's where I believe most of the disconnect is coming from on the women's side. They say they value themselves, but when men see that value at face value, it's not very good.
Okay. So let's have a real conversation now, because obviously, like we did a little exercise. I think it was quite interesting to see how the exercise turned out. Everyone has their own different points. Where do we agree then? So like Kasim, myself and you, like, and I'm sure J Rob will come on in a second too. Where do we agree with the women that what we can do as men better? Because I'm going to ask the women the same question. So where is it that where we agree as men that some of the things that we can improve on and work on to help us be more marriageable, if one would say, right? As well. Where do you see some lines where we can actually agree with the ladies?
I think one of the great things that we can agree on is that we need to do a better job in our provisioning aspect for women, right? Not just, providing, financially, but also providing in ways that will benefit the relationship as a whole, right? Taking more responsibility in the leadership, in the responsibility, not being afraid of that. I think men intrinsically, we want to provide for a woman, but that's based upon what we can get. Sometimes it's more and sometimes it's less. I think men should tap into that and not look at it as a burden, but look at it more as a challenge to rise to the occasion. We all know that if a man wants to get involved in a relationship with a woman, it's going to cost him a little bit, right? So if you understand that, from that particular perspective and not look at it as a challenge for them, I think we'll be in a better space. I think as men, we need to do a better job at being smarter and problem solving for our women. In order for them to trust us, we have to have the right mindset and the right competence, right? That's what they're looking for. They're looking for a leader that's smart, that's competent, that can not only have foresight to look for problems ahead, but also to protect the things that are right there before us. I really think we need to do a better job in caring and loving for our Black women, right? I think that we haven't seen enough love in our lives to really know how to show that and how to reciprocate that when they're giving it to us. But we just got to do a better job in looking out for them. They say that we don't protect them. We need to do a better job for that. Not just physically, right? But just maybe giving some advice every now and then. If we see something in their life that's going wrong, and we say, hey, you know what? This is what I recommend that you do to prevent this from happening, to you. So I think if we work on those things, as men, I think we'll get better results from the women, right? I think that they will have an opportunity to, I guess, submit, I guess. I'm a big believer that, a woman submits to a man's abilities, right? His ability to provide, protect, and all the rest of those things. So she's really submitting to those things. And men, shouldn't look at that as a blow to their ego, but it's saying, hey, if I want a woman in my life, these are the things that she's expecting from me as a man, and there's nothing wrong with that.
J Rob, you're here. We are talking. The question is now not a pushback. It's more, what do you agree with the ladies in terms of some of the things that they've mentioned in terms of what we can improve on as men? What do you agree with? Where do we also align with them to say, yes, we agree with some of the points that they've made about what we can do as men better?
Hey, I appreciate you having me. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, I was going to say something different, but the things that I recognize that I can agree with a lot of the ladies is I do believe a lot of women want love and affection. There's not a lot of, I can only talk about Black America. There's not a lot of fathers out there. There is that absence, and that is not necessarily just affecting them as, like their kids, but it's also the previous generation. They were absent there. So there's a lot of burden on us to try to fill in and be affectionate. And I do think we should love more. I would say unconditionally. We should not commit unconditionally, but we could be more affectionate, do date nights and things like that. But it kind of goes two ways, right? So you have to have someone that.
Jay,
I'm
it's only
sorry.
things we agree with. We're not doing any dissent yet. It's
Oh,
only things
yeah.
we agree with.
No. I was going to push back. No, I promise you. I was going to keep it on topic, sir. Yes, sir. What I was going to say was, like, if there's a phrase in a lot of old songs, and if you go back to the 90s and 80s, black men were really known to be like the romantics. You know, these were like your singers, your all this other stuff. Like if you go back, excuse me, body, soul, and mind. You know, there was that affection that we gave a lot. In today's culture, it's that could be missing. So I could see that. And I would say one thing I don't really understand. I didn't really hear everything that the woman's saying, but I going to the attitude part. I think we could try to understand where they're coming from sometimes, like their point of view. So that's something. But like going back to what I was saying, when there was a love song and they were saying she was easy to love, you know, she did this and that made me love her. All these other things. I think sometimes like people don't understand, like there's things that you do, small things, small gifts, small considerations that can make that man want to return that love language back. I think the one woman was talking about love language. So it can be a yin and a yang sometimes. You know, if you want someone to love you more, sometimes you have to be kind of lovable. You have to be cute, more appreciative, more innocent, more feminine, and those things will like trigger a response out of men. And with the last thing, there's a Bible verse that says, "People that have friends show themselves friendly." So we're piggybacking. We're going on Bible verses. There's that idea that if you want to have a whole bunch of friends, or if you want to have love and affection, you have to be that to other people, and then you'll get in return. So that's it. I'm gonna fall back.
Is that a point to the men or a point to the ladies?
Oh, it's kind of both. Like relationships, I see them as yin and a yang. I see them as, you know, like this is where that individual thing comes in, the individual conversation where every person is different. You'll hear a lot of women say that. And so I've always tried to dissect that. Like, what are women trying to say where they say, yeah, this girl is different than this girl. What they're trying to say is each girl wants a different type of affection and treatment. And every relationship is, it's its own combination of love and affection. So we really have to kind of learn how to treat every woman. I wouldn't say every woman, to learn certain types of women and what they need. That's something we can do more.
That's a good save, because you was tailing slightly away from the task that was actually asked, which was that what do you agree with? You were trying to hold women to this, they need to be feminine, friendly, and and it's like
no, not necessarily. Yeah, I do. I see what you're saying, and this is one thing I try not to do. I never try to point the finger. Like it's one is
you're not
pointless.
pointing the finger. You weren't
But
pointing the finger. What I'm saying to you is that, and
okay.
I said the same thing to TT as well. And this is what we're dealing with in our community, right? The task is, where do you agree with the ladies at? And at one point towards the end, you actually started really well. It was towards the end, you kind of tailed a little bit, just a little bit. You went to start saying, show yourself to be friendly. You said be feminine. You started going on to what women can start doing. Just, I don't know if you heard it. You actually started tailing. You just slightly started tailing.
I did. I apologize.
That's right. That's right. And I'm only saying it because now because it's because the same thing I said to TT, which is this is what we're dealing with on both sides. This is actually a really great example when it comes to our community, what we're actually facing on both sides. Listening and responding is very hard because everybody's in pain. Women are in pain. The men are in pain. We all have pains that we're dealing with when it comes to our inflictions. And sometimes it can make listening and doing certain things very, very hard. So it's not that it was a shot at you personally. It was just something I noticed. I was like, all right, you just get a little bit off, but let's bring him back.
Absolutely. I would definitely keep it like, I definitely agree with 100%. I was just going to say that there are like, what I learned about reading the love language books is that there's 5 types. And the thing you have to find out as men, we have to find out which type belongs to our woman. You know, what does she really need? Like which one's priority 1, which one's priority 2, and the other ones you really don't focus on. So that's something we can do more, show more affection. But I definitely appreciate you. I'd agree with you. I'll try to stay on task here. I appreciate you, Doctor.
Sorry, Dog. Come on. Sorry, Dog. I respect you, bro. You're good, man.
You have a good
ladies, it's your turn. Okay, don't hide from me now. Okay, the mandem have done their job. They've led. They've gone first. They said these are the parts they know. They agree with what you ladies have said and said we can work on these things to make sure that we're on code. So, ladies, so you've heard us speak. So, what do you agree with that you say, do you know what, we can agree with you that we can work on and stay on code as ladies and, help also in this situation when it comes to this black marriage situation? What have the ladies heard that they can agree with?
I don't really agree with most of what was said, to be honest. For me, I think that I'm sorry. My thing is we need to build up the trust in our relationships. If anybody watches, I know we don't want to talk about Simone and Rashid, but just the point of Simone's background checks. Like you see women coming up there talking about, they have these plans and they just want to check to make sure. And then you find out this person got 5 kids and this. So basically, I'm saying integrity needs to be restored. We need to get submission and all these things that men are asking for. For me personally, we need to see transparency, honesty, trustworthiness. Look at Rashid, financial.
Wait. Wait.
I'm
Alice, where have you
going
gone?
there.
No, where
I'm
you
going
going? Because
there.
you did the same thing Rob did. No, you got off.
No,
You got off target. Baby, you
You
got off
guys
target.
didn't
You bringing
touch
us in?
on it.
No. What's
Yeah,
intelligence
man.
to you?
She bust the
You got off
left real
target,
quick.
Alice. Nah. You butt the trend, baby. You gotta go again. You gotta start again. What do you agree
I
with
don't agree
us?
with the 5 love languages. All the love languages are my love languages.
That's.
What is
It can be, but we have 2 that are main, primary, and secondary. But what do you agree with us? You see, you got a task. What do you agree? The points that we have made. What do you agree? What do you agree with that you can work
Kasim.
on? That's what we're saying. That women
Kasim
can
said
work on.
provision. Kasim, your main points were provision. Okay. See, now I want to put out something. You're gonna This to me, I don't agree with that because women can provide for themselves. That's what we keep saying. We can provide, but again, what women are on right now, when you got the pink pill community and all that, is they want, how the Bible says, where your treasure is, your heart is also. They want some tangibles to see that you actually are in it. They are tired. We are tired of building and working with and seeing you make minimum wage and X, Y, and Z and working with that and then not reaping any benefits, not getting any fruit.
Wait, no, Alice.
So for provision, I agree with that.
Where are you agreeing with what we said? That is not agreeing with what we said.
Kasim said provision, so I'm saying that's what. But
No,
that's
but he didn't
not
say
the
provision
main thing.
in terms of ladies.
Oh yeah.
He said for us as men, that's what we need to be working on. Yes, but what I'm saying, what do you agree with? The points that we've made about you ladies, the points that we've made about you ladies, what do you agree with?
Restart me.
All right, go on.
Bring it back.
Let's do it again.
It's 11:30,
We can see looking at each other like, wait, hold on.
I wanted to let her keep going,
Oh, you want to see me hang myself, right?
Yeah. I was gonna put some popcorn in the microwave and just chill. Let's watch you hang yourself.
No, go again, babe.
Sorry,
Go again.
my bad.
That's okay, babe. It doesn't have to be the 2 minutes as well. You can just say one thing. Maybe it's one thing that you agree with. You might not agree with everything we said. So that's what I'm saying. So you choose something that you agree with that we said about women that women can work on. That's what we're saying.
Oh yeah, he said Kasim did say the willingness, right? Did you say that part?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll agree with that. That's my point.
Wow. Okay, no worries too. Who's next, ladies? Who's next? Woo, baby. We gotta.
We have to do a lot. We have to do a lot, analysts, because we have to keep them lifted all the time. I heard that women have to submit, and I'm not being demeaning about it, in the sense that I heard you say something along the lines of women should know how to. I heard give up. Did I hear give up in terms of you guys wanting to lead and wanting to be supported? Did I hear that correctly?
In a summarized, yes, that's the essence of it. One of the points, yeah.
Mhm. But yeah, we have, and again, I have no issues, submitting. And I think that's what has caused a lot of my sisters to be hurt, because they have submitted to nonsense. So being asked over and repeatedly to submit to nonsense in a different shape, form, and fashion, they're tired. My sisters are tired, because along the way, a lot of the gentlemen today, I find that when I listen to them, and I hear some of them particularly, and I hear some of the comments being expressed, it's like, what else do you guys want us to do? Like,
Hold
we're
on,
not your
TT.
mama,
Where are
we're
we
not your
going? No,
mama,
no,
we're
wait,
not
wait,
your
wait.
auntie.
Wait.
I'm just TT, it's just
Stop.
analyst.
TT, stop. Because the same thing's happening to analysts as happening to you. Are you guys not paying attention to what the task is? The task is, we have done the first part. We've gone ahead and said, where do we agree with women that we can work on? That as men, we need to work on, that we need to actually improve upon. We're asking the ladies, what did you hear from us that you can agree with, that you can begin to work on? The ladies are 2-0 right now. Loss.
No,
2-0.
we
You
admit it.
didn't.
Did you not say that?
No,
He
you
heard me
didn't.
say that. I heard you
TT.
say. I
You
heard
went
him
off
say,
course.
Kasim, to say to submit. You like what guys would
TT.
like us to submit. I
You
heard
went
that.
off course. You did the same thing that I said. What I said to Rob, which is you started off saying it. You
It's a
started off saying it, and then
loaded
you hold on.
statement.
It's well, you didn't have to choose that statement to agree with. That's the point. You could have chosen one of his statements or mine to agree with, and you didn't. So you chose something else to disagree. So that's proving the point that you're not actually listening. Ladies, we're not listening. We're 2-0 now. So I'm gonna go to Stephanie. Stephanie, save your sisterhood, because right now it's 2-0, and
Looking
it's a
bad, son. Looking bad.
riot. And I'm a decent. I'm not one of these misogynist people. I'm gonna be coming crazy at women. No, but you're showing us already that 2-0. Y'all ain't listening. So Stephanie, please save the ladies, because I believe in the woman. I believe in us. I
Let's
believe
see.
in y'all.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you the truth. Transparency. I did get a little lost a little bit, but
Mm.
um, I do agree that as far as having it all, that there has to be a balance. I do agree with balance. Um, yeah, you want to work, you want to be a good wife, you want to be a good mother. That has to be a balance. You can't just work, work, work. So I do agree with that. Because of the times, sometimes as women, yeah, we want to do it all. You can, but you have to have a balance. And then the most important thing is family. That's the most important. God, family, then work. That's the most important thing in that order. The other thing is, I think um, when y'all talked about trying to, I think communication, did I get that? Did somebody say that? Communication, trying to work with each other, trying to fill each other out, trying to figure out what the love language is and working with that. Even though we probably can take in all the love languages, there's some that are stronger. So I agree with that. Trying to think what else. Um,
You've done well,
that's
Steph.
what
You've
I
even got.
remember
You're
so
good.
far that I agree
Baby,
with.
you're good. You're good. You done the assignment. We appreciate you.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I got a little lost with all the talking here. Um, but I do agree with the communication part. I do think that communication is key. Um, and when men and women can communicate properly with what they need from each other, they can just continue to work on it.
Appreciate it, CT Taylor. Now I think
Yeah.
this is really powerful, right? I think it's really powerful, right? You saw a live and this. When I say to you all the time, and I say to my audience all the time, that women are not better than men when it comes to communication. You're not. You're actually not. This proved it that we are exactly. I mean, I'm being generous now. We're the same, right? We had 2 men, we had 4 women, right? We all made points. Me and Kasim had to make points, and we got Rob on it, and Rob also went a little bit left, so I had to rope him back in. But the reality of the situation is, when it comes to communication, women are not better than men when it comes to communication, because communication means you also have to listen, and you have to take your emotions out of what you're hearing and not try to be ready to wrestle with the person in front of you. Now, what was interesting about this particular situation, which I think it was, is that the task was that, what did you hear that you can agree with, right? What did you hear that you can agree with to actually work upon for women? And what did you hear for men? What did you hear the women say that you can work upon and agree to work with? That was the actual question. And we strayed away from it on some parts. And I think what that just showcases us is that when it comes to communication, how important active listening actually is. If you're doing something else, or you're paying attention elsewhere, or you're feeling something as you're listening to that person, you're actually not taking in what the person's actually saying. And so what happens is that people miss important information. And then when they're answering something else, which then adds more fuel to the fire. And then there's an argument between myself and you, because now we're like, now you're not understanding me. And I'm like, how did you miss that? You're thinking of me. How did I miss your point? It's because someone along the line, we went off the lines. And that's how easy it becomes an argument between men and women. Not only if you're not single, how easy it becomes an argument between men and women who are married to or in a relationship, but also it's paramount to how we look at each other in the community. We are going left and right and missing each other. You know what I mean? So I think it was a great example, and I think it was really good to actually experience it. But I think something that me and Kasim have said that we agree on, and I think the ladies will also agree on, right, is that as that is happening, what's my role as a leader? Is my role next to bash you over the head and try to win the argument next? No, my next role now, I believe, and I believe Kasim can even add to this as well, is that as that's happened, I had a laugh, I had a joke of it, me and Kasim laughing and cracking joke, but it's a serious thing. It hurts, because this actually, sometimes as men, this is what we experience. Sometimes women don't realize this is actually what we experience. We're talking to you and you're actually not listening to us, but you believe you're listening to us, but you're not. But what's my next response? Do I now try to kill you? No. Actually, I should actually have more patience and some kind of consideration that, you know what, you might have been doing something else. This might not have been the right time to actually speak to you because you weren't actually listening to what I got to say. If I raise the temperature, she gonna raise the temperature, right? So I have to do my job, which is remain calm, remain cool and collected, and say, actually, is this even the right time to have a conversation? Because maybe, you know, you're busy, babe, or whatever, you're doing something right now, and that's how we keep the peace in a relationship. But if I while out, this is gonna go wild. And I think this is for any man out there who's watching. If your first reaction is to see, and when you want to kill women, and this is exactly what you're going to do that in a relationship too, right? Patience, endurance, love, care is also needed in these moments as well. When we're being misunderstood, when we're being misheard, that's an important time now to actually provide a safe space. But actually, look, babe, I think you misheard me. Maybe we need to take some time out. Maybe it's not the right time or whatever, or maybe we can continue. But let me reiterate my point to what I was actually saying to you. That's how you have to control the conversation. Otherwise, it goes completely left, and then people are saying stuff that you don't want to be saying. You can't take back. Kasim, what's your thoughts?
No, you hit it right on the head. I think it's important for men not to buy into the quote unquote chaos that women go through, especially when it comes to their thought process. Again, as you say, we are very straightforward. We're very concise. When it comes to men, we like yes or no answers. And it's important for us to learn communications between the sexes, between how men communicate and how women communicate. So when we're in this interaction, we don't get frustrated, right? Just as you said, you know, when we ask them certain questions and they go off onto the left, if I'm not familiar with how they communicate, that can get me to be frustrated. And then I raise the temperature. More times than not, she's going to back down, and then we're just raising the temperature. So I think it's really important to understand the dynamics between how men and women communicate, have that in the forefront of your mind so that therefore you don't get frustrated, so that there can be more of a peaceful, a cohesion about it. And, you know, just as we did, you know, she might have run up a little bit, but, you know, we laughed and we kind of, you know, made it more soft. Right? Made it more easy for land, and then she kind of understood it, and then she got right back on track. So that's just a perfect example of knowing how, you know, both sexes communicate. And I think if we do a better job of that, we're going to minimize the amount of miscommunication that we have, the amount of discord that we want to have, the minimize amount of bickering, that we want to have, because then we can get to a form where we're in the relationship peacefully, which is what I think the ultimate goal is. So that's just my take on it.
Can I say something?
Appreciate it. Yeah, go for it, please. Go for it.
Okay. I agree. I think that's why it's very important to learn your person. Because you'll know, oh, so and so's doing this. Not that you're gonna be a mind reader. Oh, okay, wait a minute, before we go into anything, what's going on with you? Learning your person, that's important. Like, okay, like I'm sorry, I might look at different I'll reference different movies. Like, remember the movie with Tyler Perry, Why Did I Get Married? I think it was the second. What was the second one or first one? The first one, he was, I know you. I know. He was pretty much saying, I know your vibration. I know how you respond to certain things, because he's learned his wife. He was married to the oh gosh, on the Why Did I Get Married with Tyler Perry? And he was paired with. Okay, anyway, that's what I'm referring to. But anyways, I totally agree, because I'm a detailed person, and so I'll say the ex-husband was more of a yes no, and so sometimes it would frustrate him, but there's times when he wanted to be more detailed, and he would want to be more detailed with me to explain it, and I loved it because I'm a detailed person. And there's times when he said want the yes or no, and so I would respond, and I'm detailed even though he's wanting yes or no. And so I would get an attitude. It's like, wait a minute, if you're giving a question to me, I should be able to answer it the way I need to answer it, so it was frustration. And I think, like you said, if you kind of go back and say, you know what, let me be a little bit more tender, then there's probably times when I would go back and say, wait a minute, he wants a yes or no. And I'd probably be willing to do that, because I would probably, the grace that you would give me, I would give that to him. I would eventually give it to him. And that would probably be less of me giving detail to him, because, hey, I know he's a yes, no. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I agree with you on that. We'll learn how to learn how to, and from the leader, you'll learn how to give grace to each other. Yeah. Agree with that.
I do want to say, Kasim, it's not chaos. It's not. I peeped that. Okay.
I think when it's not a chaos like the Tasmanian devil, right? Chaos is just, in essence, lack of order, right? Lack of sequence in that. That's what that means. Not like you're running around tearing up the place. No, it's just a lack of order and sequence.
I think it's on both sides, like Kojo said. So.
TT, do you have anything to say? Go for it. I know you was making a point earlier on.
No, I agree. People communicate differently overall. The point is, and I agree with, pardon me, is it Stephanie? I can communicate softly, quietly. I can retreat. Sometimes I'm going to be a little bit more bombastic. So it all differs, and you have to read the room essentially. That's what I think it boils down to: reading the room and the mood and the temperament of your partner. Whatever mood he may come in today, he may come in a little bit on smoking. So I'm going to be a little bit softer. So yeah, it all depends. You can't be one thing to everybody. You just have to adapt. You have to change and evolve as needed.
Appreciate it. I think what's really cool about this is obviously is that and I want to say something as well for those who are men in the chat, because I think oftentimes what we just experienced there, right? And I take some point in time, because obviously I talk for women too, and I talk for the men as well, but I want to talk specifically for the men as well, right? I spoke about how we can lead and how we can make sure that we keep this place a safe place for people to come into and everything as well. I also want to give a flip side. Ladies, I want to make it very clear. What just happened there, let me tell you something, that hurts us as men. Now, a lot of men might not use a vocabulary that they were hurt by what actually happened. They'll be just like, and throw it off. But if I get men to really sit in tune with how they actually feel, that is painful. Because if I'm asking you a question and saying I want to answer from you, and you go around the mill to answer in a way that you actually put the blame on us, the question was actually not about blame. It's actually very painful for us as men. I don't think women oftentimes are always aware that we get hurt that way as well too. And I'm talking about mature men. I'm not talking about those men that are crap and that are not good. I'm not talking about your ex-boyfriends who weren't gracious to you or loving to you. I'm talking about men that you might consider to be loving and caring for you, right? That hurts us as well, right? So when we asking you a question and we're saying, what answer did you give? And then you actually flipped the question actually got flipped, and the answer became, we were the issue. And the question wasn't that at all. That's actually what a lot of men sometimes are saying when they share their feelings towards you or share what they're thinking towards you. Instead of it becoming about what we shared, it becomes about how you feel. And actually, that was a live demonstration. It became about how you felt. And as men, we get hurt that way. Now, we may not say anything, and I want to say for the men, I'm going to say specifically to the men, if you're a man, you got to pay attention to that for yourself, because that's actually where that's when the distance starts to start. And you don't want to be in that space, right? Because when you don't express that hurt you, you start to distance yourself emotionally. And you don't want to be in that space either, because what that happens is when the woman starts feeling that you're seeing you distance emotionally, what do you think is going to happen? She's going to respond to that distance. So so it's on both sides, but I'm just want to make the woman aware as well. We laugh and we joked it off because it really isn't that deep. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I got over it. It's a joke. But if I'm in a relationship with somebody and that's a conversation we're actually having, right? And we're actually having in that instance, that is a very painful thing as well. And just to what Zuri said, Roberts, they weren't actually disagreeing because the point of the conversation wasn't that. That's the whole point. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about. Now you're minimalizing what actually happened. That's not what happened. The conversation was a clear question. Where do you choose something that you agree with, right? And instead of actually choosing something to agree with, we made it into an argument about what they didn't agree with. And it's like, no, that's not the question. So when we're talking about communication and how we interact with one another, I'm saying for both the men, be very much aware that when this happens, be conscious and cognizant of how you're going to feel, because you might not say anything in that moment, because men tend not say anything, but you might have tried to emotionally distance yourself. Don't do it. You have to express yourself and you have to let the person know, hey, babe, what you just did there, that actually hurt me. You know what I mean? That what you actually did there, that affected me. And if you don't do that, she can't learn either and grow from that moment as well. You get what I'm saying to you, right? The person can't grow from that moment as well. So just want to make people aware of that for both the men and the women, that we have to be very cognizant as well in terms of how that impacts us as people as well. Sorry, who has their mic open? Who wanted to say something? Did somebody want to say something? Someone had their mic open?
I do.
I'll go for it, Precious.
Hey, how y'all doing? I guess my question is, would men prefer to be communicated with just yes and no answers? Because women are emotional creatures and most of our responses are going to be based on how we feel for that moment. Now, once you mature as a lady, you will get a more developed answer, but it depends on the age of the woman and where she is in her life. Most men don't communicate backwards to where we need you guys to understand us either. So how do we bridge the gap in that way?
I think a lot of it has to do with the context of the communication, right? The context of what's being talking about. If it's specific things where you kind of get you need a yes or no answer, the way that we will communicate that will be very distinct and very definitive, right? So if we're driving and we have the thing coming up and I say, do I need to make a left or right? Right? You should tell me left or right. Or if I ask you a specific question as far as a why or a when, it should be yes. Now, during these engagements, that when we're communicating, right? A lot of times, women will want to express themselves with their feelings and how their emotions are. And sometimes as men, what we'll do is we'll listen to what a woman's emotions are. And our first instinct is to want to try to solve a problem, right? When sometimes all you guys want us to do is just shut up and just listen. So what I'll do is I'll say, hey, do you need me to solve a problem, or you just got something that you just want to let off of your chest, right? Those are two very distinctive questions, right? So now you have to figure out, like, hey, do I really need him to solve this for me, or do I just need him to listen to what I have to say? Based upon those particular answers, then I can give you the time that you need, my full attention that you need. And then if there's a resolution in that, I can offer that to you without me getting frustrated. And this all goes back to, learning your partner, learning your communication thing, which takes time because you're learning one another. But it should get to a point in the relationship where you kind of know each other's love language, as you will, and the communication can be more seamless.
And let me just add as well. Again, because it's based upon that question that we asked, it was not a yes or no question.
Oh, I understood that part. All I was saying was just like, how do you want to be communicated to? Because
Okay.
you guys said, hey, sometimes we just need a yes or no. Are you letting her know that you need a yes or no?
What was that based off when we said yes or no? I don't remember us saying it wasn't a yes or no necessarily. Are you going based on the conversation we just had about the question that we asked?
Yes.
Okay, so I never asked for a yes or no. Okay, to make it very clear, I want to make sure everyone can get on the same page. Before anyone jumps in, we never asked for yes or no. The question was, what do you agree with? And you were meant to expound on it. The same. That's why I let myself and Kasim go first, so you can get a little example of how it's supposed to be done. We chose points. You don't have to choose 3 or 4. Could have chose 1. Stephanie did it. She chose 1 point and went with it, right? So I chose several points. Kasim chose several points, and we said these are the points that we can say that as men, and it doesn't mean necessarily me, have to work on, right? As a community of men, this is what we need to work on. That's it. We asked the same question to the ladies. What is it that you agree with, and then what can you work on? Like, what can women work on? So it's not even a yes question because you're meant to explain, right? So it wasn't a yes or no. You're meant to explain, because when you're asking that question about how do you want us to explain it, you're actually missing the point I'm making. The question was very clear, and all you had to do was adhere to the question. That's it. The first two ladies actually failed the test because they didn't actually answer the question. They did what Rob did earlier on, which is they started and then they went immediately into, well, you men need to, and it was like, that's not what the question was. So when you're asking that question, you're asking, I hear what you're saying, but you're actually away from what we're actually talking about, because that was not what was happening. Just to put it clearly, yeah.
I understand that completely, but when he was talking, Kasim was talking, he was saying sometimes it could be just a yes or no. So my thing was, I was just asking, in what scenario, in what situation do you need a yes or no? Is that being communicated to your partner? That's all I was saying. I understand that situation wasn't a yes or no situation. I get that completely.
Okay. Yeah, so in general, sometimes, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say specific to men. I personally, I think I'm very much more aware now, on cognizant of how women answer questions. We had a panel on this about women taking accountability. What we heard from the ladies was they have to explain their position first. They have to explain that they're not the bad person first. This is what we heard. We did a literal panel on this, and women explained that they have to explain that they're not the bad person first, because they start feeling bad about the situation. And sometimes, yes, we just need an answer, which is just yes or no, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's what we need. So there are times like that as well, that we need a straight answer. So yes, if you want to answer that question, simple answer will be yes. There are some occasions we need yes or no. On this occasion, it was not that occasion. So, yeah.
You know what? I want to expand on that, if you don't mind. I think
please, go for it.
a lot of it has to do with whenever you ask a woman a yes or no question, immediately it comes to do with humility and shame, right? In order for her to admit that wrong or that shame up front and be very painful, what she'll do is she'll go ahead and deviate, as you said, to give explanations and trying to turn it around so that therefore it's not quite as bad on her. Actually, having humility and having shame, there's nothing wrong with that. That can be, very empowering, right? Because without any kind of correction, there could be no change. And a lot of times we are afraid of being corrected, right? Because it causes us to have to change.
I think those are generalizations. So
okay. Oh no, you can explain. Yeah, you can explain, Alice. If you believe it's different,
to be,
go for it, man.
Yeah, I just think that I'm not sure what panel that was about the explaining part and trying not to look like the bad guy, but not every woman is like that. And,
That's fair.
you know, a lot of us have done a lot of work on ourselves. And personally, you can't hurt me personally with your words. Your words and your experience are your own, and I own my own. So yes, we may not understand, but just like you said, and I got my notepad out because I want to make sure I hear you clearly this time. You said have more patience, endurance, love, grace. So if we're going to do that, have the grace to understand, oh, maybe I miscommunicated, or maybe she misunderstood. It's okay. But if that hurts you on a deep level, do you think that that's something that you have to look at within yourself or me?
Well, if you cause the offense, I mean, if you cause the offense and I bring it to you, why would I look at me? If I've
Because I
let's
mean,
let's take our
mhm,
example. Let's keep it on
mhm,
our example because that's actually the live
mhm,
example we have.
mhm.
For instance, we asked you a question, you missed the question, and if I
Yeah,
said to you that I'm hurt, I'm not hurt, but let's say I'm hurt by the
yeah.
fact that you missed the example and you went away from what I was trying to say. What's your next response here? Do you take
My
ownership,
grown up
or
response is, I'm sorry. I please recommunicate with me. Please say what you meant to say.
that's it? There's no
Period.
nothing for me to think about. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's the response as men that we're asking for, right? And that
Hmm.
in that immediate moment, if you're giving me that as an example, is like that, and the same thing should be for me. If you come and you tell me, Coach, you missed the question, like you literally
Hmm.
went away from the question, I shouldn't start by like, well, guys,
Hmm.
I'm saying that doesn't need that's the level of maturity we should be having. That is to go straight into like, you know what, I missed it, I wasn't listening, my bad, guys. I was off. That's it. And then it's done,
Yeah.
it's swept up. And I'm saying that for us as men, and maybe women have the same thing. And you can say maybe women have the same thing as well if you want to give example too. I'm sure Kasim would agree with this. As men, we actually experience what we're talking about, what we're saying, which is that sometimes when we have these situations, women will deflect from the situation and make it about them, which is what exactly just happened on the panel. You were tasked with something and we tell you something, and then you'll be like, no, let's flip it onto the men about how we feel about the situation. And that's exactly what we actually just live witnessed. So when you're saying it's not a woman thing, I'm like, no, but we just literally witnessed it happen live.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying to you? So that's what we mean when we're saying like we experience this as men, and women may experience something different. So that's fair. And I think this is why this is good conversation, because we're starting to have that kind of now real dialogue about what's actually happening with each of us as well.
And I think what I heard you say, you know how we say in therapy, what I heard you say
You
is
know.
what do you agree as men, or what do men need to work on? So I think when I remembered in my mind Kasim's talking about provision, I went there, you know.
Mhm.
But I believe women definitely have a lot of work to do. So I'm not personally, I'm not that woman that's gonna um deflect from accountability. So I just wanted to say that.
Cool. I respect that. You're good.
Yeah.
Any other ladies wanted to add their piece of the situation as well?
What I took away from that was I did have a question because I believe it was you,
Oh, go
Coach,
for it. Go for it.
that said attitude, and I guess
Yes.
I wanted to know what kind of attitude you were experiencing, so we'll better know how to,
Oh,
correct
okay.
that behavior, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. I think one of the things that I know I've personally experienced is just how do I say this? Rudeness towards the individual person. So me personally, rudeness in terms of tone, in terms of how something is said, and sometimes as well, like saying truths but without no love. So it's like I'm a truth teller. It's just what I do. You know what I mean? I've experienced that in some aspects as well. I think even just and this is again, I haven't experienced for a few years now, so I haven't experienced this as much now in the last few years, is if you don't conform to a certain idea of even, and this is more specific, like how, like someone might say they don't like something about you, but they have to tell you that they don't like it about you. And it's like, do you have to tell the person? Do you really have to tell the person? Like, if I don't like something, if there's certain things I don't like about it, which doesn't affect our relationship, doesn't affect me, it's just something I don't like about it, do I have to tell you? I've experienced some of those things as well. And I'm like, do you need to tell the person that? Does it need to come out your mouth? There's certain things that just don't need to be said. You know what I mean? It's not everything that you feel and that you think has to be said. I think sometimes we experience that. Another thing is also sometimes facial expressions. Facial expressions, one of the biggest ones. You can be talking to a lady and you're having a normal conversation or whatever, and and it comes across as disrespectful and rude when your face is all scrunched up. What? And it's like, baby, we're just having it's just a conversation. Like you know what I mean? Sometimes we experience those kind of things as well. You know, so when I say about attitude, it's all encompassing of that, you know, the way that you answer a question, the way that you even retort, you know what I mean? That also plays into attitude for me as well, sometimes, that I experience with women. And like I said, last few years, I haven't really seen that as much. Maybe because obviously when you begin to heal as well, you tend to avoid those kind of people. And you tend to kind of spot them kind of early. You know what I mean? Like, you like, as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, no. I ain't gonna be around you. I don't know if Kasim could add on to that as well in terms of the attitude per se, in terms of what that means.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to get off really quick. One of my earbuds just went down, so I had to put in, my second pair. No, but I do notice that when it comes to behaviors, right? And there are certain people that have certain behaviors for the negative, and there are certain people that have, better behaviors for the positive. I think once you get to a certain point in your life, right, when we're talking about marriage, right, when you're looking for a spouse to be married to for the long term, behavior is one of the biggest things that you are going to be looking for, right? Because that behavior is tied to the amount of listening that person does, how that person communicates, and if there's going to be any issues when it comes to disagreements, problem solving, and communication, right? And the behavior is a really big indicator of that. And as I said before, men, we look at things at face value, right? And we don't try to look anything besides that. So if the value that you're giving out when it comes to your behavior is a negative one, that's going to be a strike against you, especially again coming from the presence of a man that's looking for a wife, that's looking for a long-term partner. And I think if women did a better job in, first of all, monitoring their behavior and how they communicate, that could be a huge plus for them, and it could be an easier indicator for those men that are marriage minded to find you guys.
Good points. Yes, and let's go for it.
So let's talk more about that then. Behavior. I can go to Dr. Umar route and say you should be understanding to the load that we have to carry and bear. But then I think about, like, I don't know, you brought up someone being rude. Let's say you're just having a conversation, they got the screw face on. I don't know what scenario that's in, if that's like in a social event and maybe the person's just not interested, or what that is. Women, we have been kind of, we're taught to, or in a way kind of indoctrinated, when we go out around at least an attractive woman, we get hit on all the time. So even at work, we want to be taken serious at work in our professions and all that. And I mean, as soon as we see a guy, specifically a black man, here he comes, thinking he can flirt, he can push up, he can make innuendos. So a lot of us have been kind of like, you know what? Instead of me being nice and smile, I'm just going to be mean, and I'm going to block that because I'm not interested. Do I think rudeness has a place? No, but there are creeps out there that don't get it. And if you're saying, hey, I'm not interested, hi, nice to meet you, take care, some people don't understand that. It doesn't register. So then there might be a little bit more of an attitude that comes with that. You know, there's a more venom that's coming out. Not making an excuse. I'm just saying probably that could be why you're experiencing that.
No, you know what? I get it. I understand that, you know, um, women have to operate in a sort of aggressive or masculine energy in the beginning, because just like you said, there are creeps and knuckleheads, you know, out there. They may not have the best intentions. So I don't want her to be all nice and soft, right? So she can continue to be bombarded. But the difference is that, yes, in the beginning, you know, it can be a little bit of rough around the edges. But as time goes down, do you soften up a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it measured and it increases? So in the beginning, yes, you can be, you know, a little bit more assertive, especially when you don't want to be bothered by something. But when you're in a relationship with someone, you know, especially men, we're looking to see if that aggression kind of dies down a little bit as the relation goes on, and you kind of rest into a more soft, more cooperative space.
Yeah,
Kojo,
definitely.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, I am terrible with my facial expressions. I've been working and I'm trying to get better. But if you say something crazy, I'm gonna look crazy. I'm gonna just be honest.
Of course. Yeah.
But I think my way of being responsive to what you guys said would be to be self-aware about my tone, about what words I chose to use when I am responding to a question. And just overall handling the person with love and care. I think we get away from dealing with each other in love. We deal with each other in such a way to where we're on the defense all the time. And I think that's why we have so much chaos and confusion at the moment, because everybody is listening to react instead of listening to understand. And so if we can get past the whole point of, hey, I'm listening so I can prove a point, we'll be better off.
I respect that, and I appreciate you guys. Oh, sorry, who opened the mic? Go for it. Go
Oh,
for
it
it.
was me. I just wanted to say I definitely agree with Kojo and Kasim, like the guys on the panel. I definitely feel like if as women we make that decision that we feel safe enough with you and we're able to put our guard down, we could definitely watch our tone and how we do speak to you. I also do feel like if it is communicated as well, like if a guy is communicating that, hey, like I don't like how you speak to me, we can definitely change our tone because it was communicated. So now we can change the way we're saying things.
I appreciate it, CT Taylor. And listen, I mean, and I think you've made some great points, ladies, as well, that we have to be cognizant and aware, you know, of, you know, the things that Black women are dealing with, right? And any Black man who wants to date a Black woman should be aware of some of the trappings that happen that come along with being a Black woman. You know what I mean? Like that's something you have to be cognizant over. And so, yes, I definitely agree with those particular points. And, you know, I take it into account now. I have more grace, you know what I mean, in terms of how I deal with people, especially women, Black women. And, you know, so it's understandable, you know what I mean? Like I can take that into account. So, you know, I appreciate you ladies even adding that footnote to the conversation, because it is a part of it is a part of the reason as to why women become that way. We can understand that point as well. So yeah, you know, this is yeah, I get it, you know. So as men, we have to be more understanding, which is what I'm tasking us as men to do. That in relation to that, yes, we have to become more understanding. And it's quite interesting. So like you guys on the panel are fine, but I've been watching the chat. And as soon as I mentioned about, you know, tone or attitude, there's a few in there. Most of you are cool, but there's a few in there. And this is unfortunately what happens. And there's some men who do this as well. So this is both on both sides. Someone was like, it sounds like you need therapy. Because I said, do you get what I'm saying? So sometimes we face it like, you need therapy. Why would I need therapy? Because it sounds like you're tone policing Black women. Like immediately the defense. You see what I'm saying about the defense? sometimes we're just saying something, and men do this too, but I'm just pointing out because we have ladies in the chat who are doing it. That when you say something, unfortunately, and that's what I'm not even saying to you, the ladies, I want to ask those specific women. When I said it in the very beginning of the show, I said, do some of you do not like men? And you might not realize that you have past pain that actually situates in this situation. Oshun, I'm gonna call you out. You're one of those people who have been saying things from the very beginning of the show. It sounds like everything I said, you have a problem with it. Everything from the very beginning. And this is what I'm saying, that some of you are carrying burdens of pain that no matter what somebody says, you want to disagree with it. At that point, it's not me or at that point, either you problem. And at that point, you might not like men and you might just want to heal from that so that it's not every single time you want to fight. Right. So that's what I'm saying to you, because the person's already said I'm tone policing. I'm even time policing. I haven't even said anything to the ladies. They can go as long as they want now. We haven't done 2 minutes, anything. But if you keep banging that wall, maybe it's not me that has a problem at this point. Maybe you have a problem at this point, because every time you want to keep saying something about what I've said, and I've like that at that point, you're not talking about what points I made. You know what I mean? So it's just like, this is what I mean by saying that some people actually, that women too, just like men, are carrying things against men. They don't like us either. Maybe not in the same intensity as men do, but they don't like us either. And it shows up in how you present yourself. You can't listen, you can't hear, nothing else matters. Boom. You know what I mean? And I get it. We experience this from Red Pill. We see the exact same thing. They can't listen either when a woman talks because they're in so much pain and they don't like the other sex that they don't listen at all. It just becomes about rhetoric, some points they want to make. And at that point, it doesn't become a place where you can actually learn and grow from. So for both men and women, you've got to be able to listen. Ashun says she's indifferent to men. Well, there goes my point. Did I lie? You know what I mean? Like, did I lie? This is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So not to my panelists, not to the people out in the chat. A lot of you people in the chat, you know, you're cool. You disagreed. You made your points. But I had to make that point very clear as well, because some of the points that were made were really not a point about discussing the conversation. It became about how you're hurt already before we've said anything. You know what I mean? So yeah, it makes sense, you know. Yeah.
I want to add something to that, Kojo, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, please.
So I'm looking at it from 2 different sides. On one side, women, let's say we're at work, right? And we get the "you're aggressive" type, right? We get that title, especially Black women. And I've gotten it at a few jobs, and you know, it's this undertone of you know, you can't handle how I come across, but you can do the same thing. You know, you being a white male or white female, whatever it might be, communicating this, and now all of a sudden I'm looked at as this aggressive person, but they can curse at each other in business meetings and all these things, walk off. I work, you know, in STEM, so I work around a lot of white, Asians, and all kinds of people, and they can, oh, that's BS, and walk out the room, and everybody's ha ha ha, oh, he'll cool off, you know, let me do that. And it's like, whoa, what's wrong with her attitude, you know? So that's the defense of the tone part for a lot of us. But then we got to be intellectually honest, because when we go to certain establishments or we interact with each other as women, we will be like, ugh, what's wrong with her? I don't like that attitude. Man, that's why nobody wants to, you know, patronize this business or whatever it might be. Or I don't even like being on the phone with this person. You know, I'm just painting scenarios for us, how we talk within each other, with each other in our world. And so we have to be honest that some attitudes or some tones are not cool, right? I mean, I can look at that person that said, you're being aggressive, and I can say, oh, he's just racist. Or I can say, you know what, let me flip the game here and approach them in a way they understand. Not because I'm trying to gain some type of affection from these people, but for the simple fact I'm trying to keep my check. I have a goal. I have a track I'm on, right? So whether I use this company or another company, I know what I'm doing with this situation. So am I going to fight back and argue and end up losing my job or get passed over for a promotion? No, I'm going to be smart and use their approach against them. You know, so we have to, I'm just pointing it out that we're looking at things from, I'm looking at things from different perspectives. Black women are tired of being held to this high standard of we have to sound right, look right, do this, be the perfect person, cook, clean, X, Y, and Z. We're tired. But at the same time, there are some, you know, truths in what you're saying. So I just, yeah, just want to point out both.
That's fair. Go for it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it too is coming from an unhealed place. So a lot, like you said, a lot of it is dealing that hurts. Because I've seen some comments I definitely didn't like either. But I think we have to come from a different space. Like, how do we get to the point to where we can agree to disagree in an appropriate way? You know what I mean? Like, without calling somebody weak or saying they being in a feminine bag. That's not acceptable, especially if we're trying to get into a place to where we want to communicate better with one another. That's not appropriate behavior. So what is the appropriate action? Do we even really want to be in these spaces that we're talking about? Because we have to make some kind of change. I don't see it.
Appreciate it.
You know what? I want to say something here. You know, I think we go through things like as a people, as Black individuals, there are certain um, weights that we carry on our backs, right? There's a certain weight that a Black woman carries, and there's a certain weight that a Black man carries, particularly when it comes to our employment and being in the corporate sector. And I had to learn to watch how I spoke to individuals. I had to always think about what I wanted to say before I said it. I had to also think about before I spoke my body language, right? I had to make sure that when I spoke, I was in an open stance that was non-threatening. And I had to make sure that my articulation and my speech was slower. It was in a more even tone and it was concise, right? And communication can do a lot of things, not just in your professional life, but also in your personal life. The way that we have learned to coexist all of this time as humans, as men and women, is through our communication. Now, there are certain aspects of our life that's going to get a better response or a better gauge in the way that we communicate, i.e., our job. We know that we have to be a little bit measured in the things that we say, because again, our livelihood is going to depend on whether our mouth is out of pocket or not. So consciously, we got to kind of consciously rein that in, because just as you said, we want to keep our jobs. But when it comes to the dynamic of men and women in relationship, that goes throughout the window, right? We understand that that there are certain people in our lives that we can kind of communicate to them how we want to communicate, how we really truly feel. And that's a really big detriment. And you hear a lot of men, you know, say that, hey, you know, it's funny that you speak this way with your boss, but you don't give me that same respect. And men see it, and vice versa. Women will watch men interact with different other people's like, wow, I see you, you know, you flipped the switch on me, right? Or you switched up now, you know. So I think if we do a better job in, first of all, realizing the situation that we're in and respecting the individual that we're talking to, communicating with, we can get a better outcome. But a lot of people don't want to do it. They come from the place like, you know what, I am okay. Ain't nothing wrong with me. It's you. You have to make the change, and I am okay. as I am, and that's where the kind of disconnect comes in. So if we can do a better job in respecting one another and communicating better, we will see a stronger community, and we will see more people getting and staying together.
I love what you said, Kasim, and I think
Great
you
point.
said something about when it comes to work, we know that that's our livelihood, but we need to have the same kind of value system when it comes to our relationships. Not We're not going to live or die if we have a marriage or not, but there should be some value there, and I think that is lacking.
Yeah, and and as I want to say as well, we definitely tone police in this place. I don't know, y'all know already. I tone police, and actually, any woman in here who says that I shouldn't tone police would also be hypocritical, and I'll tell you why. Because when men come on this panel and they don't have the right tone, I have to check them. You know what I mean? So tone policing goes on both sides. I tone police both the men and the women. If you come with a tone that's mad, we gonna get you out of here, because it's about keeping a safe space, and it's about trying to mitigate some of these triggers that are going to happen. And I always tell people that you can pretend as if tone don't mean nothing to you till I tell you to shut the f up. And the tone that I use to it, you're gonna be like, is he all right? Is he disrespectful? You know that's disrespectful based on my tone, right? And even the words I've said. So, the weight and gravity of what I've said in terms of the words I've chosen, the phrase I've chosen, and the tone and how I've said it is also disrespectful. So tone is absolutely important, and everybody understands tone. But I do agree there is a history when it comes to, if you want to call it, tone police in Black women. So I'm very much aware, yes, there's a history behind it. So I have to be cognizant of that, right? At the same time, I also want to be very clear that in this space, both men and women have to be held accountable when it comes to their tone, right? And tone can even mean rhetoric, not just what is said and how it's said. It can be even rhetoric. For instance, let me give you an example. And I'll tell you how women also do it to men, tone policing. Rob came in earlier on, right? J Rob. And immediately he started talking. Someone said, KS, Kevin Samuels. Brother, I didn't even finish his point yet. Straight away went to KS. You already started formulating an idea based on just a few words that he had said about wanting women to also be in the kitchen. That was straight. He's a misogynist. Whoa. You know what I mean? Like, so we do make these judgments of each other, right? And it's about keeping the safe place a safe space. I've been called Kasim, what you're saying is absolutely 100. Listen, if I had to work so hard to even be careful. I have to be careful sometimes what I say, because immediately someone's going to label me with Kevin Samuels Jr. We did a whole panel on it last year. That can I say the truth about, if I'm talking about women, can I say anything about them without being labeled Kevin Samuels? Right? Because when we had the men's panel, that's exactly what we was experiencing. So it's like we get tone police too. Immediately, if we say something that is said in a particular way that someone didn't like, they tell us, that's Kevin Samuels. Be careful, coach. You're becoming Kevin Samuels now. You're becoming Kevin Samuels. Be careful now. I had a whole slew of that, like, I mean, beforehand. So I know exactly that you're right. We have to posture in a particular way too, so it doesn't become, it doesn't get taken in a particular way, right? But that's fair. In some aspects, there's some fairness behind it, because we want to be able to create a safe space for both men and women to be able to actually exist in, which means I have to be cognizant of the way that I talk. I've said it several times on this panel too, that there was a time where we had an argument about Married at First Sight about 2 years ago, and me and Sean went off the hip. We were arguing. We were just passionate. They didn't take it as passionate. See, when people are saying, "Oh, sometimes we're passionate," well, you didn't take my thing as passionate. See, when a man becomes passionate, it's not passionate. At a point, it could be classed as aggressive. If my hands start moving too much, it can be classed as aggressive. If I start moving too much, it can be classed as aggression. So we get policed. All of us get policed in some shape or form. And I'm saying for women, please be cognizant that you're not the only ones that are getting policed. You know what I mean? And men too, don't be tunnel vision that it's only men that are getting this particular thing as well, because we are both getting policed in some shape or form. And that comes from whether it's white supremacy or whether it's actually history of dealing with each other, and how certain behaviors can be classed as looking like, you're looking a bit like, you might want to calm down because you're looking like you're doing too much. You know what I mean? And that's fair because we have to keep the safe space present. So I'm cognizant and I have to be aware of what I say and how I say it, and I have to be very careful of it as well. Because I have to make sure that I'm around women, and the way that us as men talk, I can't talk exactly the same way we talk to men that speak to women. As men, we are very straight, very direct. Bro, your shoes are talking right now. Change the shoe. You know what I mean? You know, bro, listen, Ed Top, the haircut was going left. Like, you say it straight to the brother. We can't say that straight to our sisters like that, right? And that's not me. That's not us coddling you. It's just us understanding that it doesn't get received the exact same way that when we talk to men, the same way we talk to women. That doesn't mean we have to coddle you. It means that we have to change the way we approach a certain subject and broach it in a different way so that we don't start causing warfare and fires between the two. And I think the same can be said for women to men as well. So, but at workplace, I definitely agree with what Analyst was saying as well. It is a big thing, as well. So, whew, I feel better. I don't know about y'all, but I mean, I feel like we had a whole service up in here. I'm just saying for the ladies and the men.
No, this was good, and I hope I gave some valuable insight to you ladies and how to understand what men are looking for and how we think, particularly the men, that are looking for a marriage. I hope I gave some really good insight for you guys to kind of take a look at and make those adjustments within yourself. So hopefully, what we shared today, you guys can get better outcomes in what you're looking for.
You did. You did. You did. You did a great job. Both of y'all. I just want us to operate from a space of love. That's it. We'll be better off if we can do that.
Appreciate it, Precious. Good points. Analyst, sorry, you're going to say something, Analyst.
No, I was just going to say I appreciate the conversation as well. I've been rocking with you for so long. This is my first live. I'm so proud of myself.
I know.
Aren't you so proud of me?
Growth.
I never do this, so I'm overcoming fears, doing this because I'm the moderator in there. But yeah, I appreciate this for just several reasons. Yeah, and let's challenge ourselves as a people to be better. Smile more, open up more. Let's move out of love, not fear. Wisdom. We need to have wisdom, yes, but fear, no.
Love that. Nah, love that, man. It was a great conversation as well, and I think it was just good to hear you ladies as well, and hear a different perspective, to take in, and I think it will definitely help. I'm sure we'll go deeper another time as well, and we can get straight to it. But honestly, it was good. It was good to have the back and forth, and hear some of your different counters to certain things as well. And I heard some of the things that men need to improve on, and definitely I like I said, I agree, and I think we can start challenging these men to start doing those things as well. So we have balance here. So things for the women and things for the men. The men need to work on certain things, and I agree that will aid us and help us. Yes, CT Taylor.
I will say this was a great conversation. Kojo, I love your channel. I always watch it. And also there's a quote that says, like, if you're the smartest in the room, you need to go into another room. So I just say that to say that I definitely learned a lot from you guys, and yeah, amazing conversation.
Vice versa. Learn some things too. Good to have you on here as well, C Taylor, you know what I mean? Shoot. Some of us are getting old, man, including myself.
Cut the games, Sam. Cut the games. Cut the games.
Yo, we are getting old, bro.
Cut the games, fam. Yo, I'm 52, man. So like, come on, man.
You look good.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I'm 52.
You look fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't have any stress, any drama. And I live good, I travel. Yeah, so that's it.
Nice.
Dude, but you're not single though, are you?
No, I'm in a relationship, man. Very, very, very happy. we had it on the terms that we both wanted, and we just take it one day at a time, man. And it's awesome. I'm a really big believer that men and women are better together, right? And it's up to you to figure out exactly what you want, what type of relationship you want, what type of dynamic that you want, and find that partner that's looking for that. And you can have a really nice, wonderful, bountiful, happy life. And I have that, so I'm good.
Love that, Kasim. Thank you. Oh, someone asked what the solutions were. Well, I can give you a few solutions of what I heard from the ladies, okay, which we actually said earlier on. So what I heard was men need to do the healing work, right? Emotionally. We need to do some healing work. We need to get in our bag, therapy, counseling. We need to get into that bag. Second, we heard obviously about provision, right? And I would extend it to saying provision in terms of getting ourselves in a good financial stable position. Kasim, you give a great example of talking to your son as well. Getting yourself in a good financial stable position to make yourself to be the best provider that you can be. And we're aware of the fact that as men, our insecurity is a finance aspect. If that's not in check, we ain't gonna be the best partner oftentimes. So yes, getting in our financial provider bag is really important for us as men in terms of helping ourselves as well. I think the ladies also said, let me go to my notes because I've written it down because I ain't gonna try to remember this on my brain. This is why I write things down. But also was said about not engaging in certain communities. We know who they are, okay, so that it doesn't spoil our mindsets towards women, i.e. red pill manosphere. Keeping a healthy balance in terms of how we look at women. And that would change the way that we interact with them. That was Analyst. That was your point as well. Someone said about 50-50. I mean, of course, if you got 50-50, that might not work for everybody. So I think the key thing here is men, know your market range. Don't be overshooting yourself. Okay. If you know you can't afford it, leave it alone. Just like when you go to a shop and you can't afford it, you leave it alone. Okay. So some of these ladies are outside your range, leave it alone. That's a key thing there for you. So you don't have to always try to buy the product that's out of your financial range budget. So those were, I think important parts for us in terms of improving to giving us a better chance in terms of entering that marriage space as well. For that aspect as well. So yeah, those were some of the male things we learned. I'm not gonna ask the ladies because I don't want to do it. We're gonna leave the conversation here. We're gonna leave the conversation here and just be like, I appreciate Lily Bird. But listen, no, if you haven't joined already the community, guys, listen. If you haven't joined the community, you haven't joined the membership, make sure you join the membership. You can click on the sign, the $ or pound sign underneath the chat that comes up, and you can join the membership, or go onto the main page and you can join the membership as well and join the exclusive club. We'll have membership only conversations as well. And we'll have on our Patreon join people as well. So I think next week we're doing a Zoom as well. So I'll put it on the community tab to let you guys know the link. So if you are a member already, fantastic. You will get access to that. Or if you're a patron, you'll get access to that Zoom call that we're gonna have as well. So I got Zoom calls with the rooms. So y'all can be split up into little rooms and have little conversations as well. Okay. All right, we'll make it interactive. So yeah, audience, thank you so much. And my panelists, Stephanie T, Precious, C Taylor, Analyst. I hope I get to see you guys come back again. We're back here next Tuesday for another live conversation. Listen. Oh, no worries. Appreciate you, honestly. We're gonna see you again next week, guys, but I'll be back with another live, I think tomorrow. I do need to do Love and Marriage Detroit, so I'm gonna do that probably in the morning for you guys, about 7 o'clock. Yes, it's nice and early for some of you. I know. You're gonna wake up to Love and Marriage Detroit, okay? All right, you're gonna get it. We will no, the Zoom won't be recorded. I won't record the Zooms, Lily Bird. I'll leave the Zooms alone, because then you can have freedom to say what you gotta say, okay? But yeah, we're gonna love you and gonna leave you. We're gonna leave it here, okay? Much love, much appreciation, guys. And I'm gonna put this last clip so you guys can enjoy as well.
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
Have a nice night. I'm gonna leave you with a clip, a little bit of our membership clip, and good night, guys.
Good girl, I'm like, okay, she was a good girl, but I also know how she get down. I'm like, ooh, this is awkward. It's awkward. Now you see what it's awkward.
This your one? This your one?
Because number one, he didn't bring her around. He waited. So he was into her. He liked her. He was keeping this quiet because this is real for him. Now he's feeling safe and secure in their relationship to bring her around the crew. So this is a big thing. It's not nothing small. Hey, this is what I'm talking to you right now. I know this is serious. So now I'm like, all right, now I got to play. I'm like, all right. There's two things can happen. Either